Greetings, everyone. Welcome to CRWS Counter-Racist Business Meeting on the text Race Code War, the Power of Words, Images, and Symbols on the Black Psyche by Khari Enaharo. We are covering pages 109 through 119, and I'm getting us started. I am going to read the first word that caught my interest, which is mugger from page 109, which states, this word has a similar meaning to the term thug. A mugger is a small-time robber who sneaks up behind the victim to steal or remove some money or article. This term was popularized during the 1980s when a white male shot a Black teenager during an alleged New York City subway robbery incident. A mugger is a small-time crook who robs to get immediate cash, jewelry, or credit cards. He does not have the brains for a big job. Greetings, Rael. And I'm just gonna get this clip on the screen right here. And we're just gonna hear a bit from Bernard Goetz. Bernard Goetz. I think this is this could be who he's referring to in the text, but we have here a suspected racist who shot 4 Black males on a subway in New York, and he's just like Khari Enaharo, a so-called American hero. Definitely celebrated, worshipped. If you watch any video on this guy, you will see many people saying he did the right thing, and that's because this sort of actions are celebrated and perpetuated. So without further ado, you can watch a little bit of this. Let me make sure I have the sound playing before I started, actually. Let me check. Yeah, actually, yeah, the sound would not have played if I did check. All right.
On that cold winter day in Concord, New Hampshire. After listening to what you are about to hear and weighing the medical evidence, the jurors chose to believe Slotnick's argument that Goetz's memory had been distorted by the trauma and stress of the shootings.
On my right, there were 2 fellows. One of them was actually pretending he wasn't with the other guys. He changed his thing, and I think he held his hand up, he held a strap or something like that. And he just pretended, he didn't even look at me like he wasn't aware of what was going on. I'd like to say something. When these 4 guys approached me, one of the passengers in the car that I could have quick glimpse, they turned their head away in the other direction. They knew that was going to happen. They were smart. If I wasn't carrying a gun, nobody would have helped me. And they would have been smart, because if someone had helped me, they could have wound up being fucked up beyond belief. But it doesn't matter. That's all academic. The fellow, one of the fellows, it looked like he was trying, I don't know if he was facing me from the front or from the back or whatever. It seemed as if he was trying to get through the steel wall of the subway car. But he couldn't. And I let him have it. And I let one of the other guys have it. The guy who was pretending he wasn't with him. I ran up to the first 2 to check them, who were on the ground, the first 2 that I had shot. And they were taken care of. It's all very cold-blooded, and this is going to offend everyone. I went back to the other 2 to check on them. And the fellow who was standing up, I was sure I had shot him. It was funny. I want to give you an honest answer. I want to know if I missed, but I went to him the second time, and I looked at him, and he can't verify this because he was probably out of it by then. If I had shot him or if he wasn't, I don't know. And I said, you seem to be doing all right. Here's another. I was going to shoot him, but he didn't matter. Again, I was sure I'd shot him. Maybe I didn't. He jerked his arm, and the trigger pulls on reflex. The secret is you work on reflex. You just work on reflex.
I know, and I certainly think Goetz knows, that this shot was not a fantasy, that in fact he did go over to Darrell Caby, and interestingly enough, Goetz didn't testify at the trial. because Getz knew if he did testify, that jury would be able to see in full dimensions the kind of person that he is, and he would not have been able to deal with questions like that. Barry Slotnick argued to the jury that this was a fantasy. They brought some expert witness who was paid to come in and testify that this was a fantasy. But it's very difficult to make a bullet wound, and after you have severed someone's spine, you know, to make that disappear.
It's very clear that Bernard Getz, by his own admission, looked at Darrell Cabey, saw that there was not enough blood on him, or he didn't appear to be as injured as the others, said, you seem to be all right, here's another, and fired a shot point blank into his back, which severed his spine. There is no way that any rational, non-racist person can consider that to be an act of self-defense. That was an act of cold-blooded attempted murder. And only through playing on people's prejudices and people's racism was Bernard Getz able to obtain an acquittal.
So there you have it. Mr. Suspected Racist, White Supremacist, Bernard Getz. And interestingly enough, the word mugger, when I look at the word, it's very similar to the word nigger. All you need to do is replace the U with an I and an N with an N, and then you got nigger. I'm sure many of us maybe have seen the film Joker, the Joker, the 2000 and I don't know, the one that came out recently, where in that movie, the Joker character kills a bunch of white people who are mistreating him on a train, and I understand now that that is an homage to this exact incident, except they didn't use black characters. They just used white characters wearing black, which is code for black people. So the white people who watch the film Joker, they know exactly what they're talking about and what is being displayed here. And I even saw that when reading some of the comments doing my research on this person. So yeah, mugger can be decoded as nigger, and in the system of white supremacy, this is what you're supposed to do to niggers, and you're supposed to have free range to kill. Definitely an interesting case for folks to study. Just hearing Getz interview, he says some really just insane things, like him wanting to gouge out eyes with keys because the black males were looking at him what he perceived to be in a crazy manner. He mentioned that black people had a crazed shine in their eyes when looking at him. So it just hints on what some suspected racists see, but some white people see when they see a black male. And again, it was never proven without a doubt that these people were that the black males were trying to actually rob him, and it's very well possible that some of the black males that he shot weren't even involved. They just happened to be there, and white supremacy just has produced this idea that black males are so threatening, and they condition white males to just really have a disdain for black people. So they could have just been on their commute. Next thing you know, they're getting fired upon by a crazed racist. So really telling. And mugger, nigger, tigger, I think they're all related. They all can be decoded as meaning black people, which is why this term is really interesting. Definitely, I think a great decoding from Mr. Khari Enaharo. Any folks would like to chime in, share some notes?
Does anyone know in the chat, does anybody know if his police interview was shown at his trial?
Oh, it was shown, and tragically enough, expectingly enough, it actually gave him more sympathy because he was mostly dealing with, the jurors were mostly anti-black or suspected racist, with one black male on the jury. So yeah,
Wow.
there's testimony of of people seeing the interview and okay, now I believe him. Now I believe him because I have sympathy for him. So yeah, no jail time, and he's making millions off his story, off killing Black people. So
Wow. Okay. I was saying when I checked out this word mugger here in on this page 109, I did actually do like a quick Google search on Bernard Getz. That's what it brought me to when I saw all I did was type in what did I type in? Something like subway killing or something like that, and it immediately brought up Bernard Getz. It was something harmless like that kind of good. Anyway, so it was just talking about on Wikipedia about how he served 8 months in jail, and he got I think 200 hours community service. And apparently one of the victims did say that they weren't involved in it at all. Apparently the three other people that were injured, yeah, one of them said that they weren't involved, but he did say that 3 of them, I think one of them asked him for $5 or something like that. And they were all unarmed. Nobody attacked him. They were all unarmed. There was no point does he say that they tried to attack him either. And so obviously his, judging by what he was talking about in his police interview, he just kind of wanted that type of confrontation. And this was obviously provided him the best kind of excuse. And also when you talk about the Joker film, even more of a thing that a lot of white supremacists get behind is the Death Wish film series. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with the Death Wish film series with Charles Bronson.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that film is even more of a take or homage to Bernard Getz, right? And he obviously admitted to using racist language as well. Even talks about that on the Wikipedia. I encourage everyone to just go and check out what they say about him on Wikipedia, actually. And so it talks about him using racist language, and also talks about him in terms of when we were discussing a couple of broadcasts ago about white people being drug users as well. He admitted as well that he frequently used PCP laced marijuana as well, right? So he was abusing drugs for years and years and years and years before this killing as well. And one of the victims that I think is the one that he paralyzed, got £43 million in a civil lawsuit afterwards as well. So yeah, it's really, really interesting. A lot of white supremacists really get behind this guy Bernard Getz. So yeah, there's lots of parallels with him and Khari Rittenhouse. And the thing with Bernard Getz, he wasn't even being quote unquote attacked or chased like Khari Rittenhouse apparently was chased. Bernard Getz wasn't even chased or attacked. So there's no reason for him to do that. And like I say, even if I've said it before, I think all white people should be treated like black people until the system of racism, white supremacy is ended. So, if Bernard Getz had been black and I don't know, a group of white people on a tube or a tube train had asked him for $5 or something, and he just punt bullets into these 4 white teenagers, I don't think he would have been given, 8 months jail and 200 hours community service. I'll mute my line.
Very well said, and I 100% agree. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. I highly doubt, but I'm just gonna say that this individual suspected racist, I would say admitted racist by his actions and by his words. Just an example of that white aggression. They look for an opportunity to kill for fun. To have fun doing it, and he definitely was seemingly deranged from his drug use. It's just really telling of the sort of people we are dealing with, especially that these individuals are often made heroes. You can find videos of him today and in his old age still talking about this, getting money for talking about this. So very telling of the exact kind of system we are living in, and maybe further evidence that we are in a system of white supremacy, and we're not just crazed, pitiful Black people, pitiful people classified as Black looking for excuses to why we are in our position. You know, further evidence that we are really in a system of white supremacy. Anyone would like to share some of their notes before I continue, or other folks continue?
Peaceful greetings. This is Kwaku. I wanted to talk about teenage pregnancy. So teenage pregnancy, as we all know or suspect, is a huge epidemic for Black people, especially Black females, Black males, especially child parents. So I found out this was very interesting. Instantly thinking about this, when this code word came up, I started thinking about that show that used to air on MTV a couple of years ago. I think actually it's still airing today.
Teen Mom.
Teen Mom. So I had a short clip. Do you want me to share it with you, or can I
yeah, but if it's from MTV or something like that, I can't play it because I'm not the copyright.
It's on YouTube.
I don't. What? Just send me it. I'll see what channel it belongs to. But if it belongs to like official MTV or Inside Edition, I can't play it because those things will get flagged immediately.
Let's see. Okay, I think it is from MTV. So I'll just go ahead and talk about it. Maybe I can find a different one. But I wanted to show it to highlight so teenage pregnancy. Even in the book, it's associated with Black females, but largely on that show, all of the people on that show were white females. And going through it, watching it again, while Black people, Black females are being victimized and terrorized for having children at young ages, is these white females are being encouraged. And it really, reviewing it and thinking about it again, it really makes you think about that white genetic survival, because a lot of the females that were on this show, or especially the what they call the original, the OG ones, many of them have accents, so I suspect they are from like the South or Central America, places where there are a lot of Black people. So they're almost being encouraged to have children, and making it, I guess, okay, or to me it seems like they're being encouraged to have these children. I mean, when you get on TV and you show that you can be famous for having a child at the age of 16, I don't know what kind of message you're sending to other people, especially other white females. It's essentially saying it's okay to have a child at 16 years old. We need more white babies in the world. We need more white women having children. We need tons of them. So that's what I was thinking about when I was reading this section in particular, especially how, like I was saying, Black females are being victimized and terrorized for having children. I mean, it gets into this whole big government, all these things about when Black people not being able to keep their so-called legs closed. They are uncontrollable, sex crazy, but when white females are having children, it's okay. Let's give them $1 million contract. Let's follow them around. Let's encourage them. Let's show other white females that, hey, if you have a child at 16, it's okay. You're not like the Black females. You're different. We support that. We don't look down upon that. That is encouraged. Keep popping out those babies. Keep popping them out. We need them.
Yeah. Precisely. I had the same thought when reading that one, and I think Teen Mom was an excellent piece of propaganda to improve the white genetic survival, and also to confuse a lot of Black females and non-white females who think that they could watch this show and maybe eventually get on the show themselves, or maybe think that they could become so-called teen moms and have the same access to raise their children correctly and comfortably, which is not the case. Teen Mom, I suspect a piece of propaganda that produce a lot more of victim parents who thought it would be fun to have offspring at an early age, only for them to be very, very wrong. And then those offspring that they're producing aren't going to be attempting to solve the problem. They're going to be led into greater confinement or just a high level of confusion, because as we learned from the ISIS papers, Black child parents, if you have a offspring when you're 15, 13, mentally you're going to stay that age until you no longer have to take care of that offspring, because that's just how it works. In order to raise a offspring, you have to be mentally capable, mature enough, and teenagers are not mentally mature enough to raise offspring. So it's just a very powerful piece of propaganda. It's still going on. They're still celebrating and glorifying this insanity, but this is what we those who are in the business of counter-racism, this is what we will know and understand very well. Thank you, Kwaku.
I have another comment, but I see Smoking Damages is unmuted. Wants to go ahead.
No. I'll wait for anyone else if anyone else has comments first.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what Kwaku had just read out about teenage pregnancy. Yeah, so what I had remembered, can I be heard?
Yes, you can.
Just checking. Hello?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. So when I was reading the passage of teenage pregnancy, what when I read that definition, what it drove me back to when I was in secondary school, let's say about 12 years ago, 10 years ago in a sense, and definitely 12 years ago. But what it was around that time, there was a high rate of teenage pregnancy amongst my year group. And what we noticed is that a lot of them ended up getting houses. So the government welcomed this, but they wouldn't say it. Of course, it's shunned and like, oh my God, you're pregnant, oh no. But what you now see is that now they have their own place. They're living independently. They have a certain amount of money coming in through welfare that's allowing them to buy like the most latest trainers, and they're still coming to school. So, and it's like, you can see the system rewarding this behavior, but it's spoken about in different terms. So there was definitely that underlying language of how white supremacy will work on you. The only one that I guess I didn't really notice. Of course, Teen Moms definitely glorified it, but because obviously could not relate, because I did see 100% majority European descent people on that show. And as for me, it's the same category as Honey Boo Boo. It's putting their low socioeconomic situation in place, but glorifying it so they can at least feel comfortable in their working class position. Whereas we would be a little bit more frustrated because we're even shunned in that sense. So if we are shown, we're shown as the hobos or the muggers or all the other codified words there. But that Teen Moms definitely helped elevate a lot of working class people. Like, I guess that is kind of what spreaded like the only way is Essex in that sense, where they have this business relationship, but with the words that come out their mouth are like very low class. So it's almost making fun of themselves, but they're still able to climb socially, especially in construction over here. So so I definitely picked up a lot of the way teen pregnancies was rewarded in certain areas and certain times, where now maybe that will be shown or less, maybe harder to get a house or a space. I'm not aware, but that's something I definitely remembered.
Definitely married to the government, but as some people would say, when these mothers are receiving large checks, from up, which isn't wrong, right? But Black females definitely, I suspect, don't receive that kind of help or resources, or are at least heavily victimized for receiving the same benefits. If you can call them.
It's definitely wrong. It was definitely wrong, because what you saw it would do, if you make a certain amount in the house, you'd have to pay all of your rent in these council properties that we live in, over that most of us in South London, well, I don't know, that people live in over here. And what you'd find is that, what I've seen is family members telling of my younger family members to stop working so the household doesn't make a certain amount, so they're not treated at a certain level of their income, and then basically having to give everything that they earn. So if you earn past a certain amount and you pass that low income, you pay for it in order to sustain not having that status. So yeah, over here it's really layered. It's really layered in terms of how they try to keep you in that mentality. I can't wait until we get to upward social mobility. I have a lot to talk about that, but I'll let it naturally flow on the, in terms of all the other code words that were, because I thought it was going to go chronologically, but as we're just moving along, I don't mind waiting.
So folks who want to go in order, they can do that. Folks who want to jump around, they can do that. It's, Smoky Damage, were you gonna chime in?
I was going to say, yeah, every teenage girl at my school that ended up pregnant, without exception, were white female teenagers. Just wanted to just make that point. Definitely, I'm sure it probably might be different for other people, but in my school, it definitely was every single one that was pregnant was definitely classified as white. I did a quick Google search before as well on cdc.gov. It said that American Indians and Alaska natives were at 29.2%. They were the highest among teenage pregnancies. So not people classified as Black, apparently. With the highest rate of teenage pregnancies. But anyway, I was gonna say as well, the clip, one of the clips that you shared, 05, on the latest Rips, where it showed those it was two black females and I think one white female dancing around talking about Hennessy and Plan B and stuff like that, right? You know, racism, white supremacy encourages us to just have all that brain trashing, idiocy, stupidity, and obviously along with that comes, you know, irresponsible sexual activity as well, which is, you know, so it's not a surprise. That's exactly, you know, they could, like, say, create the monster, then, you know, laugh at the monster and take steps to kind of deal with it. So yeah, not a surprise in the system of racism, white supremacy.
Yeah, not at all. And again, these teen pregnancies involving white people, they don't they could receive help from the welfare system of white supremacy, but Black females, non-white females, they often, okay, if you want help from the government, make sure there's no Black male, non-white male in the household, because if there is, you're not getting any help, because we need to make sure that that offspring you have is super just in a thinking pattern of retardation. You know, no serious thinking offspring if you want help from us. So and I see this in my just tragic victim unit, where there's a female in our survival unit. I don't even think we're related by blood, but Black people, I'll always say that, you know, people, these associates are our relatives. But I watched her give birth to, like, you know, 6 offspring. All of them are just super not serious at all. Silly. I'm just gonna say silly, very silly. And now the offspring that she has are just doing the same thing. Not even 20 having offspring, and it's just continuing the cycle of easily controllable victims who are just going to spend their existence being silly and stupid and confused. So it's just a wonderful example and a tactic racist men and racist women have been using against us for a very, very long time. This causing us to be, like you said, really irresponsible with Area 8.
Yeah, I suspect that if Black people weren't confused about racism, white supremacy, they wouldn't be having children when at times when, you know, they're not ready to have them. That's just my personal opinion about it. And also, I just wanted to highlight two things. One thing real quick about what appears to be a Black female in this banner, or in this, what do you call it?
Diane, and she's not a teen mom. They just added her to it. But it is weird that all of a sudden she has blonde hair in this poster. But I guess that's just a blend of what they're trying to promote.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you, Chris. But
white identification, white aspiring, lightening up, all that wrapped up into one banner.
Yes, this is what I would say is possibly racially showcasing. So, on this show, from time to time, they will throw in a couple of Black people. I was watching, just to kind of go through and remember, see, kind of create the conviction that, this is definitely about white females, but I was watching some of the clips. And, from time to time, they throw in one Black couple, just one Black couple. Nobody really cared about them, just to throw them in for, whatever diversity quota that means. So this Black female is definitely being racially showcased. I suspect she's unaware of that. She's probably confused about the system. And also the other thing being that what I found interesting is that these shows oftentimes, one other way that they promote this show is that it starts off with them being 16 and pregnant, or what is now young and pregnant, and then they follow them to be teen moms. So, not only is it, you're 16 and pregnant, but now you're a teenage mother. We're gonna glorify that as well. We're gonna glorify being 16 and pregnant, and now we're gonna glorify being a teen mother, aka child parent. I don't make this stuff up. This is the kind of racist propaganda being promoted by the system of racism, white supremacy. Black people, please don't be fooled. Get on code. Let's read the code. Let's stop being confused about the system of racism, white supremacy, and how it works.
Excellently put, Mr. Kwaku. Wholeheartedly agree. We all should be wanting to be less confused, and especially wanting to solve this race problem. So I'm gonna hop into my notes here with Mean Streets. I think it's also a film. I think it's directed by Martin Scorsese. I may be wrong. It looks like it is, because he often likes to use Robert De Niro and this other guy in this film. Pretty sure it's Martin Scorsese. But anywho, there's a movie called Mean Streets where white people are just going around being vigilantes, which is very another homage, I suspect, to racism, white supremacy, and Bernard Goetz. So I'm just gonna read a bit from 110. The code, the racist code word is mean streets, and I'm gonna start with from 110. The often heard saying they put their lives on the line every day is a direct code reference to the hazards of dealing with Black people on a daily basis. In order to deal with these mad animals, the white supremacists must have the most sophisticated weaponry. They must possess the most inhumane firepower to stop these big Black Rodney King-sized bucks from attacking and destroying. In order to patrol these mean streets, we must have military weapons because we are in a war zone. These drug dealers are better armed than we are. We need additional firepower to control the mean streets. Decoded niggers. This is the rationale used to justify the purchase of massive weapons and arms for police and the sheriff departments. Army manufacturers have drastically increased their sales to law enforcement organizations. So yeah, this is I recall when I used to be a digital cop watcher. I spent my time watching a lot of cop videos, and I noticed that, hey, these cops are getting like military grade weapons. Why are cops getting tanks? And then why are they getting all this equipment? And long story short, I discovered, racism, white supremacy is a war against people like myself. Oh, it makes perfect sense. We are in a war, every single second of our existence. we are in a war called racism and white supremacy. So it makes sense. And then you have all these movies being put out with just which are like slaps in our faces if we really know what we're watching and what we're paying attention to. Yeah, super terroristic to be just riding my bike and just to see a giant truck carrying a what looks to me to be a tank, you know, in South Central LA. And it's just yeah, it could not be more obvious, but we don't get it yet. We do not, we just allow race soldiers to get this equipment, and it's going to be used on us. And it's yeah, we should definitely want to solve this problem, because their weaponry is only going to get more advanced. You know, we don't want to be in 2077 where they have like laser weapons and we're watching the news and like a black person got literally cut in half by a laser rifle because he was jaywalking. You know, we don't want this to happen, but that's where we're headed if we don't solve this problem immediately. And yeah, Mean Streets, a very famous movie about white people going in and cleaning up the streets, you know, AKA getting rid of the niggers or people who behave like niggers, black people, victims of racism. That's all I have to say about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And you know, they're probably gonna have sooner or later, they're probably gonna have the robots and the drones, quote unquote, cleaning up the streets or just shooting these niggers basically. And I think Khari got it completely correct when he said that. I think that passage, that little passage there deserves a second reading, especially the bit where he says they must possess the most inhuman firepower to stop these big black Rodney King-sized bucks from attacking and destroying. And that's exactly those my sentiments, exactly the way that Khari Enaharo put it there. And also I was thinking of usually, obviously, they associate Mean Streets with drug dealers, etc., right? And if they wanted to stop all the crime in these types of areas, they could do it really, really easily, but they don't. They let the crime fester. They let all these types of these types of incorrect things fester so that they can justify overly arming themselves, right? So, like I said, my compensatory definition, I'll just read it again for places like this as well, whether you're talking about mean streets, whether you're talking about crime infested areas, what they usually talk about with black people, areas like that. And my compensatory code for that is place or area that is generally understood by most to be populated by comparatively high number of people that are classified as black, that suspected white supremacists have allowed to fall into disrepair. And that's exactly what they do. And they could clean it up. And it just put me in mind of a couple of years ago when we had the London riots, what they called the London riots, which were really sort of uprisings by some people after the shooting of Mark Duggan by suspected white supremacists. And one example of how they could easily stop situations they don't like. I remember when those riots were going on, those uprisings were going on for the first couple of days. I remember checking out a couple of things on the internet, on YouTube, etc. And when you looked at footage of those riots, those things that were happening on the streets, these police were just standing around. They were allowing the stuff to happen. They were just standing around day by day, hours by hours, just letting it go on. And I remember it was on the third day, I think it was, and it was, I can't remember who it was, but let's just say a police official, a well-known police official, came on the TV and he said, if anybody, words to that effect, if anybody wants to come here and continue the rioting in London tomorrow, they will be met with brute force, right? That's what he said. And I can't find the exact clip of what he said, but that's what he said. And by the next day, there was no more rioting. No more rioting whatsoever. So they could have stopped it any time they wanted to. Police, the race soldiers, etc., they know how to clean up, quote unquote, clean up crime in areas overnight if they wanted to, but they just allow it to continue, because if they allow it to continue, then there's so many benefits for the system of white supremacy if they encourage people to act in silly, destructive ways, etc. They can justify their budgets, justify arming themselves even more, and then they can, and then obviously it has an impact on the minds of non-white people and white people in the ways that they view black people, especially in that system of white supremacy. So yeah, if they just allow it to continue.
Exactly. Reminds that what you said reminds me of Dr. Seuss's If I Ran a Zoo. They control the zoo of racism and white supremacy. They can do whatever they want. They could so-called clean up the streets. They could so-called eliminate all violence at the snap of a finger almost if they wanted to, but the system thrives off violence, thrives off misery, suffering amongst non-white people, especially Black people. It thrives off of it, which I think is a great segue to the next word that I'm gonna read here. Rough neighborhood. And this
before you read, I'd like to comment.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so that I actually remember when that happened as well. And one of the things that they did do is that they let that happen so they could not only have the media.
Mary, Miss Nebula, you're cutting in and out. Maybe if you get closer to your router.
Propaganda of our behavior or low level crime.
Miss Nebula, your mic is cutting in and out. Perhaps if
is it now?
Say again.
Sorry, is that any better?
Yeah, a little, yeah. If you're talking, we cannot hear you.
How is my mic now?
It sounds clear.
I'm not. Okay, so I just wanted to add actually because of sorry to keep that long pause, but one thing I wanted to add was that what they did do was that they made massive examples of the people who had looted and put it in newspapers, and for like weeks on end, they made examples of them, putting them in newspapers, giving them long sentences for crimes of stealing things from bread, TVs to shoes. But the point was that they could have looked at the fact that these are desperate people who have low incomes, and you force all kinds of consumership down them for the sake of what is their values. And the first thing that they're able to do when raid and chaos is broken out is basically loot. They don't loot from like their local stores. They loot from Ladbroke Groves, places that literally do end up taking their money, and in the system of white supremacy, but they can't explain that these things, so it's easy to just class it off as thuggish, mugger behavior. And of course, the white supremacists making that example through the newspapers truly shows that they could at any point narrate any kind of story that they wanted, but they chose that opportune moment to make weekly examples of these people's faces for training.
I think you muted yourself by accident at the tail end.
No, that's okay. I mean to mute my mic. I don't know what was the last sentence said. I hope it was clear.
Okay, thank you for your input.
I remember at the time as well. I think that's good. Yeah, I just to carry on from what you just said. Yeah, I remember at the time when that was happening, and there was mostly, if you look at all the footage, if there's some stuff still available, if you can still look at some of the footage from those London riots, most of the people on the streets rioting were people who were classified as white and not black, actually. And those are the people that are doing most of the looting, and those are the people that hardly received any sentences, and if they did, very, very light sentences. But the ones that were on the news bulletins every day were obviously Black people, right? So, and they weren't talking really about why it happened, exactly why it happened, because Black people were suffering racism at the hands of the police. They were really talking about that. And they weren't talking about the amount of white people that were coming into London from surrounding areas to commit these crimes as well. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Great point. And they also don't they fail to really highlight the fact that most of them were secondary school children who were in the middle of education and GCSEs being locked up.
Wow.
Hello, this is Helen B here. Can I be heard?
Loud and clear.
I wanted to read the very beginning of Mean Streets, what I have highlighted, but for those who don't have the book, and to also help those, to help non-white people to think. There's something I'm going to say. I'm going to read from the book. This is on page 110, Mean Streets. This is a code term for a Black neighborhood. It means a community populated with Black troublemakers, prostitutes, and hardened, low-life individuals. Now, this is what I want people to think about. This next part. How can a street be mean? Streets are paved concrete that have no personalities. So what is the hidden meaning of the word mean in this context? I think that's a very important line, and I would like for all of us, everybody who's listening, to think about that.
Yep. And look at the screen right now. What do we see here? A ton of suspected racists and a Black female, and I suspect in this film she is a prostitute or something of the sort. So the truth is always the truth. The evidence of the system of white supremacy is always staring at us. We just have to have the bravery to look back and do what needs to be done to counter it. Excellent segue into rough neighborhood, because Black neighborhood, rough neighborhood, decoded as the same thing. Rough neighborhood. This code phrase has a slightly different meaning from Mean Streets. The term rough neighborhood means a place of social discontentment and low achievement populated by ruffians. It is a neighborhood where it is not easy to live. Social relations are strained, and the people just can't get along. Everything is an uphill battle with little cooperation and support for any action aimed at producing justice. Yep, and I think this is 100% accurate. I think racist men and racist women have done an excellent job at sabotaging all areas where Black people dwell. It's just conflict, you see, and if one has access to being in the schools, you will see it even more so there. You will see the young children picking up on the messages that, hey, I'm supposed to mistreat Black people, because it was reported to me that and so-called Mexicans, they don't mistreat each other as much as the Black students do. Yeah, they will clown around and be total idiots as they were programmed to do. But if they're gonna mistreat a person, it's not gonna be someone who looks like them. But Black people have been trained. Everyone has been trained on the anti-Blackness thinking pattern to want to just mistreat each other. So I'm always hearing about Black students wanting to hurt each other, wanting to poke fun at each other, existing in an area of the world known as South Central LA is very, 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 it was very common for me to just be walking down the neighborhood, and be wearing the wrong color, and out of nowhere, hey nigga, where you from? Hey nigga, better take that off, better take off that do-rag, or take off those shoestring colors or whatever. And so yeah, this is very correct. And athletes are often quoted saying grew up in a rough neighborhood or stuff like that. And it's just evidence that we should be I don't know, it's motivation. This is motivation to want to solve the problem, because we should not want to dwell in these concentration camps of misery and suffering. We should not just want to dwell there. We should want to produce a system where no one is being mistreated, no one's being called nigga or banged on or mistreated simply because they were classified as Black. And I think what Smoking Diamond just says is correct. Everyone should be treated like Black people until we solve the problem, especially white people. As white people, where they're from, stuff like that. If you want to mistreat anyone, it should be no one, but everyone should be treated the same. And since everyone thinks it's okay to mistreat Black people, how about we treat everyone like Black people? And we'll see if that will motivate them to want to solve the problem, because many of us Black people have been victimized to such a high degree where we don't want to solve the problem, because we're just so confused, and we just been as Dave Chappelle says, just punched down on by so many people that we just feel like it's hopeless. But I think we could solve the problem overnight if there was enough of us really serious about doing it and practicing the correct thought, speech, and action to do so. Comments?
When I first read Rough Neighborhood, my first thought was there was a TV program when I was growing up called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Mr. Rogers is white. And so they're showing a total difference between where I'm residing and what I'm looking at on TV. And on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, he had a Black cop, a Black male cop, and the episode, he washes the cop's feet. They sing together and he washes the cop's feet. And that right there just put us to sleep. We didn't think anything after that, right? And oh, yeah. So that's just the first thing that came to mind, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and the difference.
Yeah, that's rinse and repeat for racist man and racist woman. That's exactly what they do. They just smash up the neighborhoods. Well, they smash up the people, and smash up the neighborhoods, allow the neighborhoods, quote unquote, or or areas where lots of Black people are, just to fall into disrepair, and then they just leave it like that, and then they play the other thing straight from the white supremacist playbook. After it gets really, really smashed up, then they do their other thing, which is the gentrification trick, and then they move in a lot of white people. They throw all the Black people out of those neighborhoods, the quote unquote rough neighborhoods. They move all the white people in, and then all of a sudden, wow, they clean all the graffiti off from all the buildings. They just tidy up all the roads, fix all the road signs. All of a sudden, all the money that they couldn't inject into these so-called rough neighborhoods, etc., all of a sudden they just seem to inject loads and loads and loads and loads of money into these neighborhoods. I mean, the amount of money that we pay in what's called council tax, where everyone has to pay money to the local council, the local borough. We call it council tax here. Around here in Hackney and places like where there's lots of Black people, our council tax is so much higher than people who are that in areas that are populated by people who are classified as white, especially in London, in areas like Hampstead or say Sloane Square, areas like that. Their council tax is really low. Places like Victoria, very, 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 very low. And like I say, it's a pattern that's just repeated everywhere by racist man and racist woman, right? That's what they do. They just move all the Black people out, and then all of a sudden they inject loads and loads and loads and loads of money into the area. So then people are non-white and white people are encouraged to believe that, this is why the area was like that, because there was lots of Black people there. But no, it's because the white people just didn't want to help. They're not interested in helping anyone who's classified as Black. They're not interested in giving us proper access to education, proper access to just anything that will result in us, being in a better position and able to you know, produce justice for ourselves, basically, or for anyone else. They just, like I said, it's a pattern that they just repeat everywhere.
Real quickly, I just wanted to add that similar to mean streets, you know, what exactly do they mean by rough? How does the neighborhood become rough? Last time I checked, Black people don't have any neighborhoods. They don't control neighborhoods. They don't create neighborhoods. So what exactly is causing, or what exactly do they mean by rough? When he mentions the social constraints, let me find it real quick. He said, social relations are strained and the people just can't get along. Why is that? Why can't these people get along? Why are their social lives in such disrepair? Something to think about. I suspect it is because these people, who I suspect are mostly non-white, because you're talking about Black people when you're talking about rough neighborhoods, they are under constant terrorism by the system of racism, white supremacy, in a high stress state at all times. And they just, being confused about it, they don't know what to do about it. So they end up taking it out on each other. Right. So rather than calling it a rough neighborhood, let's analyze what is causing this. And like Smoking Damage just said, you know, he mentioned a plethora of things that could be causing this. So let's, you know, focus on solving those issues and not, you know, blaming the people that live there for living like that, or, you know, whatever. I'm not saying we're doing that here, but oftentimes that is what racist man or racist woman does. They blame the Black people living there for the state, their social state of those so-called neighborhoods.
Yeah, excellent line of questioning. Like what? Yeah, I'm not gonna repeat it, but you mentioned yeah, very well said. So, but Helen, did you want to tackle the zero tolerance? Did you want to do something with this article here?
Okay, so when I first read zero tolerance, when I first saw the term, first I thought of Bobby Knight and how that's a white coach who used to mistreat non-white Black males, basketball players. He was coach and he used to like choke them and he threw a chair at them and he was just, he was horrible to them. He mistreated them. He was practicing racism, white supremacy. So then they turned around, and because it was recorded that he was mistreating the non-white males, they white people said, okay, well, now we have zero tolerance. You cannot mistreat them at all. He still did it anyway, and then claimed that, oh, I didn't know that meant, you know, zero. I didn't know zero mean not at all. I thought that I could still do it, but you know, have like a miss up, like oh, I made a mistake one time, like get off with a warning. Then I also thought about non-white children and how we are suspended at a higher rate for minor infractions. A semi-excellent documentary to watch is Waiting for Superman. They touch on this subject a little bit. It's about charter schools, but they do touch on this subject. And yeah, so yeah, that's all I want to say at the moment.
Yeah, zero tolerance. Usually when racist man and racist woman talk about zero tolerance, they're not talking about a zero tolerance on fraud. They're not talking about zero tolerance on company embezzlement of funds. They're not talking about people or whole companies that dodge paying taxes in the countries that they live in. Right? They're not talking about zero tolerance for burglary, which is usually committed by white people, certainly in this area of the world. They don't talk about zero tolerance on white people who practice racism, white supremacy. They're not talking about zero tolerance for race soldiers who brutalize unarmed Black people. They're only talking about zero tolerance on bad things that Black people do. Usually anytime they talk about zero tolerance, that's all they're talking about. Just
wait a minute. Not even bad things. Bad things. When
not
we're talking
even
about
just bad
students,
things,
when we're talking about children, we talk about children being children. You know, roughhousing or playing around or
you know, being a little loud or whatever. Just children being children.
Exactly. I completely agree. That's all. Like anytime they have anything over here on the news and they talk about zero tolerance, it's always black people they're talking about. Whether exactly what you said, Helen B. Whether it's bad stuff or good stuff, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just because we're black people. So zero tolerance on black people, and high tolerance for the system of white supremacy. Obviously, lots of tolerance for that.
Exactly. No zero tolerance on making sure no one is mistreated, but yeah, if the single infraction occurs amongst black people, black children, yep, throw the book at them. I was suspended so much in middle school, and in regards to the white coach throwing chairs at his players, first grade, I had a chair thrown at me and my black associates for giggling in class, for laughing in the classroom. So yeah, they racist men and racist women, they want their subjects to behave accordingly or suffer their racist aggression. So very, very telling on the dynamic we're under of race and white supremacy.
I wanted to add as well, on top of sorry to cut you off, on as well with the zero tolerance. One thing that while you guys were speaking about it, something that I thought of was that case not too far in the distant past, where there was a white male who had raped, I don't know if it was a non-white female, he had raped somebody on a college campus, and he, received a slap on the wrist. I'm sure that campus or wherever has a zero tolerance for rape and activities like that. But, a great example, he got off with I think like 3-5 months of community service, something like that. But when it comes to, black children in schools, black people in society, period, there's a zero tolerance for all of that. I mean, if there wasn't a zero tolerance policy, would so many black males would they be shot on sight? A good question to ask. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember reading over here about the sagging pants laws, right? And I was thinking maybe I might have just not really understood that correctly, but a sagging pants law, seriously? I mean, you may as well just say, listen, we just don't like you niggers. That's just a law because we just don't like you. I mean, what the hell is that? People actually got prosecuted, actually had to pay fines for sagging pants. I mean, over here it's a fashion, right? And they sell stuff in various different shops that just encourage that type of sagging pants and stuff like that, right? So these shops sell these types of clothes, and that's how they're encouraged to be worn. But yeah, to actually instigate a law governing that, this is literally proof of a system of racism and white supremacy enshrined in law that's designed to exclusively or almost exclusively prosecute black people, especially black males.
Zero tolerance.
Yeah, and they're just saying a white man rapes 4 different girls ages of 15, 16, 17, and I don't see the other age, but yeah, no jail time. He pleaded guilty to raping, sexually assaulting 4 girls, and this is one of the quotes from the people in the court system. He says, but he is privileged. I hate that word. It should be he has white power. He is privileged. He comes from money. He is white. He was sentenced as an adult appropriately for an adult to get away with these crimes is unjust. Yeah, but it's suspected. We are getting thrown in prison and hit with fines for sagging. But Mr. White man, 20 years old, does not get jail time for literally raping girls. So yeah, this is the kind of system we are in, and this is very recent, this is just in. And it could be constructive to hear to watch this video to see what this judge is saying and how he agonized over having to deliberate this case, but he still gave the white man his white power, and he will not be facing jail time. So let's give it a listen a little bit.
Before you go, real quick,
for a young man convicted.
Oh yeah.
Just before I forget, but a great example, you know, if this white male is able to get away with this, you know, to be expected under the system, but you know what is going to prevent this kind of activity and this behavior from happening in the future? Is there a zero tolerance? Is this an example of zero tolerance on rape? I don't think so. You can go ahead now.
Rape, and an attorney believes white privilege was in play here. Seven's Craig Stevens live in the Satellite Center with details. Craig.
He pleaded guilty, Jeff, to rape and sex abuse in 2019, but he will not serve time behind bars.
Through treatment and reflection, I've come to feel deep shame and regret for my actions. None of you deserve to be in this situation.
In Niagara County Court, 20-year-old Christopher Belter addressed the courtroom before his sentencing for the rape and sexual assault of 4 teenage girls.
I know, though, that a scar will remain that will serve as a reminder of the evil of that night.
Some of his victims were there when the judge sentenced Belter to 8 years probation. Belter was sentenced as an adult after Judge Matthew Murphy denied him youthful offender status for violating probation by bypassing monitoring software on his computer to view pornography. But Judge Murphy decided prison time would be inappropriate.
I agonized. I'm not ashamed to say that I actually prayed over what is the appropriate sentence in this case. Because there was great pain, there was great harm, there were multiple crimes committed in the case.
An attorney for one of the victims expressed outrage, saying there were 0 consequences.
He is privileged, he comes from money, he is white, he's being sentenced as an adult appropriately, and for an adult to get away with these crimes without doing jail time is unjust.
His client cried as the sentence was read.
I believe she's in the bathroom throwing up right now. Excuse me.
During the sentencing, the prosecutor told the court calling the home where the attacks occurred a party house was a gross mischaracterization.
It was not a party house case, Judge. It was a house of sexual assault. That is what happened there. That is not something that we should look past.
Belter will have to follow a list of probation rules that the judge here says will be like a sword hanging over his head. And because, as I mentioned, he was sentenced as an adult, he'll also have to register as a sex offender.
So yeah, the religion of white supremacy, you know, literally praying over, I can't, I don't know what to do with this rapist. Yeah, I don't know if I should throw him in greater confinement where he belongs. I don't know what to do. Or like, what? This is.
Don't we all have sympathy for that judge agonizing over his? Oh man, do I really have to sentence this white person for the commission of this crime? I really had to do. What did he say? I had to pray on it. And he's agonizing over this. I'm so full of sympathy for this judge. Oh well.
Yeah, there we go. Christopher Belter
that got sentenced. What about his family? Didn't they have to go to court or no? Because wasn't they the one giving the girls drugs and marijuana?
That's a good point, but I have no clue. And it looks like he was the only one targeted, and they gave him a really lenient sentence, no jail time. You know, I could go to the store right now and someone could say something incorrectly to me and I could forget to pay and walk out. I'm definitely going to jail for that. You know, so it's just, you know, we should, the treatment that white people receive and treatment that non-white people receive is very, very, very different. And yeah, this is going to keep happening, and this is only going to make other white people, they're going to get that message. Hey, I can go out and rape somebody. You know, if I don't want to get probation, maybe they need to be non-white. You know, but it's okay in our book. You know, the system of white supremacy encourages rape, encourages murder, encourages looting. The biggest looters on the planet are white people. The biggest thieves on the planet are white people. The biggest rapists on the planet are white people. So yeah, this is just
It's
their bread
just
and butter.
proof. It's just
Yeah.
proof yet again, isn't it? Proof yet again that white privilege is a woefully just an inadequate term to describe what's happening here. It's a system of white supremacy. It's a system of white power. Those people have so much power to just carry on doing what they're doing. It's not white privilege. Every time I hear that, I mean, it's so if more non-white people who still think it's okay to use that term should really, really understand what privilege means and what power means, and really think, do we have a system of white privilege, or are these white people powerful? Does that best describe what they are doing? They have that white defendant in that case has power, and that judge has power to let him off to continue doing what he's doing, and that's what these people are doing.
Yeah.
It's not privilege, it's power.
Yeah, rightful. Yes, correctly said. And we gotta really stop using that privilege word, because it's like, and again, this is the example how white people are masters with words. You know, they were calling where the rapes occurred the party house. You know, creating the atmosphere. Oh, this is a party house. You know, the girls should have known what they were getting into. But no, even if it was a so-called party house, it doesn't justify females being raped. You know, nothing justifies a person raping another person. But if we're in a system of white supremacy, it would explain how this happened. White people are masters of words. You know, there wasn't a party house, and this white man is not privileged. He is powerful, and the evidence shows that.
Like Lily Fuller says, in it, word masters. Usually when white people are suspected of rape as well, usually they call it sexual assault. You notice that they always say stuff like sexual assault and things like that, sexual improprieties, etc. Black person, black male, rape. He's a rapist. He's a this and whatever. But white people, it's always this. Just word masters. Word masters.
I also wanted to add, but I see Sir has his hand raised, so you can go ahead, Sir, if you're going to comment on this. Okay, I'll go ahead then. So I also wanted to add two things. I found it very interesting the 8 years of probation. You know, at that point, you might as well just put them in jail. You know, 8 years of probation, that doesn't even really make any sense. I'm sure like somebody's gonna forget about him, or I mean, they even said he violated his probation by looking up pornography. So he's already on probation. He's already breaking the rules, or the so-called, and it just makes absolutely no sense. But under a system of racism, white supremacy, that is to be expected. And then the second thing was when the attorney was commenting on his client. I don't know if these women that he assaulted are non-white or white, but like 05 said, it's woefully incorrect for rape to occur. But that just goes to show you like the powerlessness, right, that a victim has under a system of racism, white supremacy, right? You are absolutely powerless in this situation. And the only thing you can do is to become physically sick. Just throw up. That's about the only thing that you can do in this kind of situation. You can't yell, scream. You can yell, scream all you want. Nothing. That's not gonna change anything. But all you can do is throw up in the bathroom after such an abomination that occurred. This was disgusting. End racism, replace it with justice.
Yeah. Sir, would you like to chime in? You may be having technical difficulties, so I see you come out off mute. I'll let you chime in. So we have a big government and get big government off our backs. I'm gonna read. We're gonna read like the last paragraph and a little bit above the last paragraph of big government. But I would suggest everyone buy this book. Race Code War. It's an excellent companion and tool to allow us to be better with our words and understanding how white people are speaking in code to practice white supremacy and to maintain and expand it and refine it, super refine it, as Khari Enaharo says in this book, super refine this system with these words. So so much. Yeah, I'm just gonna read a little bit of big government because it heavily relates to get big government off our backs. The terms domestic spending, and this is from 112. The terms domestic spending and military spending symbolically represented the struggle between meeting the needs of white people and submitting to Black interests. The big military budgets meant spending money on space travel, engineering, chemicals, transportation, electronics, and so forth. The domestic side of the equation symbolized welfare, child nutrition, CETA model cities, and a host of other social programs that assisted Blacks in the war against hardcore racism. The term domestic spending became a code word for Black people and other non-whites. These words were almost interchangeable during the heyday of the anti-big government campaigns. And now I'm gonna tie this together with get big government off our backs. And the previous code phrase was big government. So it says here from 113, when get big government off our backs. When decoded, this means get the niggers off our backs. Once we have decoded the word government in the modern lexicon, it is easy to see how this term has been manipulated to mean something completely different from the original concept. The word government, thanks to the superior efforts of white propagandists, conjures up a fire-breathing Black creature akin to Godzilla with huge destructive powers. It is inconceivable how a non-existent symbol can become such a hated and feared reality. Feared government as single creature doesn't really exist. However, when associated with something to fear, such as the Black menace, it takes on a new meaning. In this context, the word government is used to hide the word nigger, which is what it really means. Even those Black people who parrot these phrases have no real clue as to what they really mean. They simply repeat these slogans to gain favor with some white group. I thought this was very, very interesting because in 2021, I see a lot of this left liberal talk and conservative talk and how everyone people are always saying, you know, you're a stupid liberal or you're a stupid Republican when it's all related to the system of white supremacy, and they have many of us confused with this with this sort of thinking and speaking, you know, thinking that we are actually in some sort of democracy. You know, we are in a government, we are being subjugated by an incorrect government known as a system of white supremacy. And I think this is why a lot more white people are so-called anti-government, which is like anti the aspect of the government, so-called government, actually helping Black people or are attempting to help Black people, or Black people using parts of the government to help us. You know, they got tired of seeing Black people win court cases, you know, get better access to education, get better access to food. They got tired of seeing this, so they developed the correlation that, hey, big government equals the government is helping Black people. It's not spending enough money on our guns, on our warfaring, and on our expanding white supremacy to other planets in the universe. So I thought that was really and to wrap it up here, to tie it all together with what I'm saying here, he has here again on 113, government handouts, which he says, this is code for giving Blacks more money. The biggest victims of the racial propaganda wars were people on welfare. The word handouts suggests that people don't want to work, are lazy, and look for someone to give them something free of charge. A handout conjures up visions of bums standing in line to receive food, even though they are able able-bodied and capable of working. Government handouts evoke images of cheese lines full of leeches who don't have the will to do for themselves. In short, the term accomplished many propaganda goals. It established Black people as a marginal population who could be eliminated or decimated. Again, the biggest welfare system on the planet is racism and white supremacy, and the biggest recipients of that welfare system are white people. White people are literally born in a position of power. It's very easy for them to accomplish whatever they want to accomplish if they use their white power correctly. So I'm glad I know this information, because I used to, in my confusion, used to think that, hey, Black people do use a lot of so-called welfare. But now that I understand that is incorrect. White people are, if we're calling people lazy, it's the people who had slaves for 400 years. If we're calling people lazy, again, it's the people who for hundreds of years have been using other people's resources, stealing things from other people in order to sustain themselves. So the biggest recipients of welfare are white people. I wish all Black people were able to understand this and communicate this to each other, so we don't feel shame for getting the crumbs that we're allowed to get under the system, because everyone needs help, but in the system, they've made people needing of help to be like worthless, and they make people who want to give that help people who we shouldn't like. People, why are you trying to help that person? What's wrong with you? Let them put themselves up by their own bootstraps, which is just more racist insanity. White people have never put themselves up by their own bootstraps. They just went to various parts of the planet and dominated, pillaged, and stole and raped and conquered people and took what they wanted. They didn't work for any of this. So we should be understanding of this, and we should be able to understand that, hey, we got to solve this problem, or the white supremacists will continue presenting us in a incorrect image, and they will pretend to be actual gods. They will pretend that they worked for the things that they have, which has never, ever, ever been the case at any point in history. I suspect. I may be in error, but I suspect otherwise. And yeah, that's all I have to say about
Well
DC.
put, 05. Well put.
Yeah, thank you. Comments from the other hosts, or would like to share their notes? Go ahead.
That whole big government thing is usually when you go on these white supremacist websites and things like that, you usually find that a lot of these white people, what I usually find anyway, I take it as proof that white people understand just how much power they have in a system of racism, white supremacy, and their desire to hold on to that power, right? Anything is looked upon as big government by these people, by people who are classified as white. Even CRT, whatever they mean when they say CRT these days, the critical race theory, and there's lots of different definitions for that. I don't even know what a lot of people mean when they say CRT, critical race theory. I don't know what the hell that means, but even that is looked upon on a lot of these websites that as quote unquote big government. Like some other white people are telling these white people what to do, and these white people are terrified. They have all this kind of fake outrage and stuff like that. So anything, I mean, system of racism and white supremacy doesn't benefit Black people, obviously, I think, and most white people understand that. And if there's even a hint that it will, it is met with a lot of fear by many people who are classified as white. And one of the examples, obviously, that the January the 6th uprisings, that weird kind of capital strange uprising, white terrorism that occurred, right? It was I think that's an example of that, where they say, look, we need to take back our country from big government because we're in fear that they're going to allow these Black hordes to descend upon us, even though they kind of understand in the back of their mind that it's not true. But, you know, they react with some kind of fear. And usually when you talk to these people about things that big government are stopping them from doing or not allowing them to do. If you say like, well, what is it you think you're not allowed to say, or what you think you're not allowed to do that you're being prevented from saying, it usually comes down to, oh well, we're not allowed to call them niggers openly anymore, or we're not allowed to, you know, stuff like that. It's always something like that. We're not happy in the way that you guys are practicing racism, white supremacy. That's what it comes down to. We want to be able to practice racism, white supremacy openly, right? We don't even want any kind of hint that there might be any sort of justice. We want to just be able to practice it. So that's what I usually think of when white people especially talk about things like big government.
Yeah, I think, oh, go ahead, Ms. B.
I'm still not understanding the term big government. White people, can you explain to me? Can you explain to me what big government is when it comes to bailing out the banks and bailing out the airports? What was that big government at that time as well? I don't know. I don't understand.
Yeah, excellent question. And I just, yeah, I'd like to, in regards to what you said, Mr. Smoking Damages, CRT is very much similar to this big government, because CRT is just code for, hey, don't tell Black people the truth about their reality. Don't discuss correct history. I put it in the WhatsApp a while ago, no, I think yesterday, about that teacher who went on this like rant on like how they're like putting CRT, scary CRT, which I don't like to use that term, but that's what they're calling it. And they don't want to teach so-called CRT because it may get Black people to understand that they're in a system of white supremacy, and white people have historically brutalized, abused them, subjugated them, and killed them, you know, for fun and for their pleasure. So I think yeah, this CRT thing is a super tacky and terroristic term, because now you can just lump anything that could be giving Black people constructive knowledge in the form of a history and reality. You can lump all that in with CRT, and you're shoving race down people's throat, and now you're playing the race card, another word that was talked about. So yeah, I'm gonna play that clip about the teacher and the next rips, because I don't know if it fits in anything here right now, but it's quite long too. But it's just yeah, and it's just infuriating to see just the blatant, the overt / covert racism, because many people will see that clip and not think that he's practicing racism, but fearing
005. Do you think that this broadcast would be termed or classified as CRT?
Oh yeah. I think this whole channel could be lumped into the CRT nonsense, tragically. But yeah,
I would suggest that we adopt the CRT thing, but our own code version of CRT, counter-racist teaching. That's what I think. We should call it counter-racist teaching. They say
right on.
Yeah, they say critical race theory. I don't know what the hell that means, but when I say critical race theory, I mean counter-racist teaching.
Yeah, that's an excellent acronym for CRT, but not this critical race theory nonsense, because ain't no theory that we're in a system of white supremacy. It's in our face 24/7. White people are just so either just want to practice this deceit forever, or are incapable of wanting to help us produce a system of justice, because they produce a non-white collective of people who are just so powerless and pitiful that they look at us and say, oh, these jokers ain't a problem. Why should we listen to them? But I promise the universe, I promise you, when there's enough Black people, non-white people, so-called Asians, but there's enough of us saying, you know what, I'm sick of this sewer system called white supremacy. I'm sick of swimming in this shithole of white supremacy. What do I need to do? Okay, all right, I'm not gonna use language that helps white supremacy. I'm not gonna call dark things bad anymore. I'm not gonna pretend I am a man or a woman. I'm gonna use I'm gonna stop name calling, stop gossiping, stop snitching. I'm gonna stop stealing. I'm gonna stop doing all these incorrect things. I'm really gonna spend my time and energy. You know, if I got a plantation job, I'm gonna go there and get my crumbs. But outside of that, I'm not having sex with white people. They're not my friends. They've never been our friends, because friends don't deceive and kill large numbers of people. Friends don't allow each other to be mistreated in this manner. So I really gotta get serious about this. And then white people, every time they run into a non-white person, they're asking for constructive help, or they're asking how you're gonna help me solve the race problem. That will get white people to really kill us all or help us solve the problem. I'm down for either one. And yeah,
I saw a so-called example of critical race theory about a month ago, and it was some non-white people. They were talking about showing gay icons in history, etc. That was looked upon as critical race theory. I don't know how showing historical gay icons counters the power of racism, white supremacy in any way. So I would just like to say, for any non-white people that are going to watch this broadcast, critical race theory is not counter-racist thought or counter-racist teaching.
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to add, as far as critical race theory goes, I don't know what it is entirely. I still don't understand it. I suspect that it is non-white people who have kind of created it. In that case, VGQ. If not, if white people are involved, I suspect it's spreading more confusion. Something I need to be clear. Something I need to understand more of. But as far as the word goes, let me repeat the word real quick. Oh, big government. I was just talking. This section was pretty interesting because I myself have fallen for this confusion. I've caught myself, and I was just recently talking to somebody about it, or government in general. You know, oftentimes when you're talking to other people, oftentimes mostly victims, other victims of racism, they'll talk about how we don't need government. You know, do away with the government. We don't need government. Everybody should be doing their own thing. And really, you know, under a system of racism, white supremacy, what would that look like? You know, that is something to think about. I suspect that would mean that at this point in time, being powerless under a system of racism, white supremacy, that would mean absolutely death, destruction for Black people, and worse than whatever is going on right now. But yeah. This one, I definitely didn't make the connection that government is being connected with the examples he gave in the book, the civil rights movement, because like he was saying in the text, government has been giving Black people a lot of these I guess you could so-called wins, for a minute. So white people started associating the government with Black people, and this how government was just always seemed to be helping them, trying to aid them, trying to help them get out, fight racism almost, if you want to say that. And so I realized that I was very confused about that. So now whenever I'm talking about big government or government in general, that's something I'm going to remember. And I think I definitely need to start asking more questions. Well, why exactly do you want government to be gone? What do you think would happen when big government gone? What is government to you? What is that define government? What is big government?
Yeah, they want to get rid of big government, so-called, which they don't really explain exactly what that is. They want to get rid of that. They want to get rid of climate change. They want to get rid of all these different types of things. They want to get rid of all these different, but they don't want to stop practicing racism, white supremacy, right? I made that point in my last video I did on Instagram about climate change as well. These white, they want to get rid, they're all for animal rights. They're for anything that they see as apparently just not justice, but then they don't want to get rid of racism, white supremacy. They definitely don't want to stop doing that.
Yeah, imagine getting rid of Jim Crow, making Jim Crow illegal, the government making that, and you're up against that. anything to practice racism. As long as you don't take away our ability and freedom to practice racism, I'm fine with that. That is racist man, racist woman's logic.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it took a lot of Black people begging for the Jim Crow era to end until white people put an end to it. But it wasn't white people who said, "Hey, we should end this Jim Crow thing." So
Yeah,
very correct.
and even then they just said we'll just change the system slightly. That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and we'll change it for you. We won't end it. We'll just change it a little bit for you. Okay, you don't like how we're whipping you. Okay, we'll just whip you once a month or something, or once every 2 months. We understand you guys are having a hard time with it. You know, we're not unsympathetic to you, so you know we'll.
Giving Black people those rights, that's the last straw. The government's got to go. The government's got to go.
Yeah.
No more rights for those niggers.
When I was more confused, I used to see myself as a so-called anarchist, but I have my own little spin on it. I just say, hey, we can all just live in peace with no government. But as I understand the problem of white supremacy, that cannot happen. People are not interested and living in peace. White people are preparing for the end of the government with guns, and stockpiling of food and bunkers and guns and more ammunition. So yeah, white people, they live in a state of white genetic survival, white racist aggression. Actually, I didn't even have to say white in front of that. Just live in a state of racist aggression and preparing to murder anyone who they think is diminishing their power and control. Yorubu, power and control, and most certainly don't tell them how you can control how they can treat their subjects, because even the homeless guy, Brad, even him has power and pleasure over mistreating non-white people. He knows it. As a homeless person, he knows that his white power is greater than the power of Jay-Z, well, whatever Black person we want to think is powerful. It does not exist. Okay, so yeah,
I'd like to ask a question quickly. Yeah, so my question is, this is open to everybody in the group, in the business meeting. Who do you believe has operated around the big government the most swiftest, I guess, out of the gay community, or the LGBT community, and the Latinx community? I would say they're the only two that have made any strides within any kind of political maneuvering around the government in terms of what it is that they want as a community and getting those laws across. Asking for the UK, America mainly, because of you guys have that, I guess, freedom in a sense, or we're just as, maybe I just need to be a little bit more informed over here, I guess.
Yeah, I can't say I'm understanding the question correctly. Are you asking?
How do you believe that the Latinx community and the LGBT community have maneuvered around this big government issue that affects us in white supremacy?
I would say that the so-called Latinx community, many of those individuals may be suspected racist in disguise. Many of them may be classified as white, so they're able to so-called maneuver around big government because the system is for them. And the same with the LGBTQ situation. They are an arm of white supremacy. They play a huge role in spreading confusion, capturing Black people, raping them, and then throwing them back at us, and they're coming over at us highly confused and talking about that we are so-called homophobic and whatnot. So yeah, they are they go hand in hand. I suspect that maybe an error.
In answer to the question, there's no such thing as a government apart from a government of racism, white supremacy, as far as I understand your question. And if you're talking about the Black LGBTQ community, As far as I understand, the black LGBTQ community have no power in a system of racism, white supremacy. Racist man and racist woman just try to convince them that they have power in a system of racism, white supremacy. I don't think they do at all. And yeah, so that's the way I look at it. I don't look at it as having a British government or an American government or an Israeli government or whatever African government. You don't have governments. You only have one government, and that is the global system of racism, white supremacy. It's just white people that use terms like big government that they just try to confuse people to say like, oh, okay, there's one government over here and there's another government over here. I mean, there very well could be, but all they are is brothers or sisters fighting over how they conduct the system, how they can best conduct that system of racism, white supremacy. So if they and as 05 says, Latinx or Hispanics or etc. isn't even a racial term or racial classification. There are black Latinos and white Latinos and mestizos and etc. White people are in control of the racial classifications anyway. So who has power, who has more power, I don't know. It just depends on what kind of power the white supremacists allow them to have in that system.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely in terms of when we're talking about black LGBTQ communities, I'm not talking about them. When I say LGBT community, I actually am only imagining white, powerful men in business suits. That's all I imagine, because that's who does the maneuvering for them. And yeah, the reason why I mentioned Latinx is because I can observe that maybe they have a little bit more of a political community. They come together, they put money together for causes and get these causes to happen. They put the money directly into their communities, or have some kind of access to do so because, of course, it's operating within white supremacy. And as long as it's not helping too many black community or any black communities, and it's detrimental towards them, then of course it will be funded or further amplified or allowed to exist in any kind of political format or structure. That's why Black Panther Party is nowhere in existence.
Yeah, and understand. I think it's very important for all Black people, non-white people, to understand that there's no such thing as a Black community. Because if it were, they would be protected and they would not be dominated, /subjugated, /mistreated under the system. So we gotta get that thinking that we can come together as a community, or we could build a community while under the system of white supremacy is not gonna happen. So
every time we do, it's overridden by another community.
Or destroyed by racist men and racist women.
Take it or LGBT.
So yeah, very important. Mr. Evolutionist for Justice, did you want to chime in? I saw you try to chime in earlier.
We should always ask them that simple question of who is a Latin and what is a Latinx? Everything should be relatable to reality. If we take the words and phrases, concepts that white supremacists give us, and then try to enter into a compensatory counter-racist discussion, all that does is just add confusion. You have to decode their lies. Quit bringing them to the table as if we can dissect a lie while still, I guess, dealing with the lie without calling it. It's just a lie. There's no such thing as a Latinx community or a so-called LG whatever community. There are white people, non-white people, and white supremacists. Choice of sexual perversion does not create a different species. And white supremacists have never allowed that open perverted behavior to dominate their racism. It's still going to be on the top of the hill. And if that's a part of practicing racism, which I believe it is, it's guaranteed to cause more confusion if you try to mix that in with understanding the world. My opinion.
Thank you. So
I completely agree. Completely agree. No
And-
matter what sexuality is, racist man and racist woman practice, they're just still practicing racism, white supremacy, and that's racist man and racist woman. A lot of times when non-white people think of LGBTQ community and how much power they have, we think of racist man with in terms of them practicing counter sexuality. In terms of them practicing anti-sexuality.
Elton John comes to mind.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, they just practicing racism, white supremacy, no matter what, no matter what kind of perversion they practice. At the end of the day, that's all they do. They practice racism, white supremacy. And even if we extend it out from the sexuality question as well, usually most of the time when non-white people talk about racism, white supremacy, sometimes there's confusion. I find they usually talk about white men. And even in the gay community, when they talk about that, they talk about white men. But no, white so-called lesbians are they play just as much as a part in the system of racism, white supremacy.
Ellen DeGeneres and etc.
There you go.
Yeah, precisely. So page 114, we have a very famous code phrase, throwing money at the problem. I believe Ronald Reagan said something about we can't keep throwing money at the problem. I'm just gonna read a little bit from the first paragraph. I wasn't planning to do so, but it may for the folks who will be listening and who are listening, it may clear some confusion when I start reading the second paragraph. So I'm just gonna read a little bit from the first. This is a code phrase used to oppose giving Black people any more money. In this approach, we are never told what the problem is. In racist code logic, money represents the power of white people. White people produce money and resources. The problem is Black people. The word problem indicates a source of vexation and menace that is troubling or difficult to deal with. All right, now I'm going to go to the second paragraph. Please buy Race Code War to get the full, just access to the entire text, please. Continuing, essentially, they are saying that Blacks have inferior genes and therefore are hopeless or a hopeless group of people, and no amount of help can change that. So why waste any more tax dollars on those people? The concept of throwing is also very interesting because throwing is an act of dispensing or getting rid of something. It appears as if there is no serious intent to address a situation because we are throwing something away. It appears that throwing money is wasteful. If changing a situation were taken seriously, a more progressive word such as investment would have been used. The word investment implies that the problem has been given very careful consideration and that assigning resources to the effort would yield positive results. To throw something is regarded as an act of getting rid of it. It is akin to throwing something at the animals in a zoo. The act of throwing suggests that the people in question are not to be taken seriously. They are objects or things of little importance in the giant scheme of things. They are just a throwaway population with little relevance and significance. Again, this was throwing money at the problem. So I thought this is really excellent information for us to have in our brain computers. A lot of people, a lot of so-called politicians will choose not to invest any sort of constructive resources in helping Black people because we are not seen as people who need help, but as a problem, a world problem. And it does help racist men and racist women a lot that they dominate our areas of people activity, and they have made us very, very pitiful, powerless in all those 9 areas, especially area 3. So it's very easy for them to point to area 3 and say, look at these people. Why should we help them? We're literally wasting money trying to help them. So they've done a significant stellar job at just producing the situation where it's so hard for Black people to get help. And it's even hard for us to use their laws, their documents for our help. You know, like for example, here on the screen, you see this this warning right here, this so-called fair use. As I've been looking at it, I think I managed to decode it. I don't know why I didn't do it before, but you know, fair use. Maybe I'm still getting copyright strikes, and maybe it's so hard to get this information out without me having to re-edit videos 6-7 times, because I don't have fair use, which is decoded as white use. I don't have the white authority to be talking like this, to be trying to help Black people, to be trying to get Black people to think about racism and white supremacy. I don't have this luxury, this power. So yeah, I think it's really telling. Throwing money at the problem. Wow.
When I looked at that phrase, throwing money at the problem, the phrase that sprang to mind was "give a dog a bone." That's what I thought of. Give a dog a bone. Just throw. And how do you do it? You just throw it on the floor, right? You just throw it on the floor. You quote unquote say, okay, these people have some problems. So what we'll do is we'll just throw some money on the floor for them. It basically just means we'll pretend that we're going to do something to help you that involves money, but it will always result in something that's non-constructive, right? So they probably might just give some Black people some basketballs, or they'll do, so I don't know, give them some incorrect food, or they'll throw them a party. L'Oreal, for example, when the whole Black Lives, like a lot of the Black Lives Matter protests were happening, and after the George Floyd killing, what they did, L'Oreal, the company, they gave money to, guess what they gave money to? They gave money to Black Pride. They gave money to Black Pride, right? UK Black Pride. And I just thought, well, okay, how on earth is that going to do anything about, it's got nothing to do with why Black people were protesting at that time. It's got nothing to do with ending the system of racism and white supremacy. It's about giving some Black people, some gay Black people or LGBTQ community a party. And white people love to see Black people go to a carnival or go to a party, dress up, dance, act stupid. So that's what they do. They're always willing to fund some stupid stuff that Black people are willing to do. And that's what they mean. That's what they mean, I suspect, when they throw money at a problem. It's basically just give a dog a bone.
Correct. That for some reason that reminds me of the whole how they've allowed many of non-white females to become strippers, and how did they get a lot of their money? You throw money on the floor for them to pick it up and stuff like that. So really, really telling. Okay, so the next code phrase I'm going to be discussing is prostitute, hooker, streetwalker. And this is, he's referring to attorney Jim Garrison. I guess he has some, he plays some role in the JFK court proceedings when they were I guess trying to prosecute whoever was alleged to have killed him. I don't know, maybe do some research on that if you want further information. But I mentioned the name because I'm skipping a lot of it. I'm only going to read one paragraph from 116. It says, oh yeah, and Garrison, yeah, you're going to get it here. The message was that Garrison had sex with Black females on a regular basis. There is an old saying in white supremacist lore that a white man is not a man until he has slept with a Black woman. The Black woman is symbolized as the highest, most rewarding, fulfilling sexual partner. In Arab lore, every man that lives according to the faith is rewarded with a number of dark brown eyes, Black women in heaven. Many white men still believe that sex with a Black woman makes them real men. The same sexual racism is also linked to sex between white women and Black men. And I really wish he was using the term female and not woman, because Black men don't exist, Black women don't exist. But other than that, this is true. I've heard this on many occasions from other counter-racist scholars, attempted counter-racist soldiers. And yeah, one of the reasons we should not be having sex with white people, they do not view us as equals. They view us as creatures to get pleasure from. Yeah, despicable. And they have produced a culture of encouraging non-white Black females to want to be strippers, to want to just shake their asses, jump up and down, shake their asses for white people, for money. And this is what we should be understanding when we're having to hear something about Nicki Minaj, Black China, Meg Thee Stallion, all these people, and of course many rappers who Kanye West has recently said that rapper just means nigger, and I agree. Rapper does mean nigger, and yeah, we got to really get out of this worshiping of Area 3 entertainment, because it is allowing racist men and racist women greater access to us. And yeah, what other group of people has been trained to to have a sense of pride and being half naked, jumping up and down? It's absolutely stupid, pitiful, and very, 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 very silly. And it's not constructive, and it does not lead to constructive results, nor does it lead to serious problem solving. Dancing does not solve that many problems unless you're working out, trying to keep your body in shape. But as for going to clubs and ghetto glorifying being a bad bitch, glorifying having many hoes, being pimps, this is just, we gotta get out of this or we will be slaves forever. And I'll mute my line.
Hello. For hookers, prostitutes, this is another one of those code words that, I'm sure there are plenty of white prostitutes, white hookers out there, but when it comes to Black females, it is negatively associated with them. A Black prostitute, like he mentioned in the book, is often big butt, just weighing, looking for to get into some unsavory activities, pretty much. Whereas a white hooker, that term is almost non-existent, right? White prostitute, almost non-existent. Oftentimes, I believe they're called escorts, and they're associated with being classy, having things going for them, doing this on the side. Even sometimes, they could be associated with doing this to get through school or something. Whereas Black females and many non-white people, really, when they are involved in this, usually due to some type of trauma. I could be an error, but usually due to some type of trauma, child sex trafficking, etc., under the system of racism, white supremacy. So, and one thing that I noticed, I was just trying to find a clip that I could associate with this, and a scene from American Psycho came up on YouTube. And I thought it kind of highlighted, right, like the white so-called prostitute or white escort. They usually look nice. You gotta call them. You don't really find them in areas that look worn down. And that was also that could also be one of the confusing things about it, especially in movies, right? Because you'll see white women playing the role of prostitutes, when in reality that is not even close to what is actually going on, right? Most of the time you'll find non-white females being abused, being pimped out. Yeah, so on this issue of prostitution, it's another one of those words where it is negatively associated with Black females, non-white females, and it's almost, I'm not gonna say it's entirely positive for white females, but definitely not associated with the same type of victimization.
Yeah, 100%. And we have this whole sexual tourism. People go to Bangkok, white men go to Bangkok, Thailand to have sexual access to little boys, essentially. And it's just an example of the sort of people we are attempting to counter, and also sexual tourism and various parts of the area of the world known as Africa, Haiti. White women go there for and white men go there to have sex, to have romantic flings with their victims, their subjects, and it's very, very incorrect. And I do recall American Psycho, those white escorts being presented to be very clean and well taken care of. They wear fancy clothes and whatnot. Yeah, Pretty Woman. Oh yeah, I think Julia Roberts, Pretty Woman, or a white woman. But when it's when we're showing Black females as escorts or prostitutes, they are often just loud, silly, and behaving incorrectly. But I think Neely Fuller said somewhere that all non-white people are racist men and racist women's whores until we solve this problem. And yeah, I agree. We just have to the least we could do is say, hey, you know what? I know I'm not having sex with white people anymore. I'm not giving them my genetic material, because they are dominating us. They're warring against us. So I don't need any reasons why. Yeah. So continuing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, white drug use good, Black drug use bad, white prostitution good, Black prostitution bad. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just in the system of white supremacy. Obviously, Black people are always going to be looked upon as the bad people. So, and obviously, Black prostitution is in turn associated with the Black pimp as well. Adele, like you were saying with the sexual tourism as well, Adele did the Saturday Night Live sketch where her and some other white comedians were making fun out of the fact that white females go over to different parts of the world and buy Black males, right? So prostitution is, I'll say a lot of non-white people should definitely go and check out. And obviously Adele now is she's sexually suing a Black male at the moment, apparently. So so non-white people listen to that, so just go and check out because a lot of black people love Adele. Don't know why, but they do. And I'd say go and check out what she thinks of Black people with that Saturday Night Live sketch, and still, just tell me if you have the same feelings towards Adele. You probably might, because we're very, very confused. So but yeah, I guess this is how it is in the system of white supremacy. You see Black prostitution and it's associated with just nastiness, degradation, etc., which it is at the end of the day. Prostitution is incorrect, and but white prostitution, like you were saying before, is associated with, I don't know, luxury, nice stuff, correct behavior, etc.
Right?
That's what I've got to say.
Right? For me, it's like it's so necessary. It's the same association with the teen moms. It's just glorified anything that white people do in the working class zone to keep them at peace, to keep them non-rioting. Do riot, they do get their changes in a sense, to keep them peaceful. So escorting, going out for dinner, or just that kind of pickup service versus straight. And also the barriers in terms of what you can do with these prostitutes, hookers, non-white people versus escorts, service, call girls, white people, go-go dancers. You have to treat them with that a femininity approach is now placed on them. That respectability is even placed on them from that Pretty Woman movie propaganda that was done. But one of the main important things that I saw how it's basically done is for working class people is socioeconomic background. It's your economic background and that respectability. You don't have respectability or any way of making money in a higher rate. It's almost like if you've been through the prison system, you're most likely going to be a prostitute as a female. Maybe things are changing in a sense now. But I think it's very important to highlight that. Like look at countries like the Philippines or Thailand, where it's massively open for lady boys and all this like Asian hooker natural lifestyle or way of being grooming as a form of career because of tourism. Whereas if you come to Europe or westernized countries on holiday, you don't expect to just go on these massive sexual orgies with their people. You go on museums, you go on the cultural sites, you go on the tour buses, you go look at the Queen's house, those kind of stuff. They have places to glorify their white supremacy while keeping these other countries still pleasuring them and staying in this low socioeconomic background or way of even maintaining money through their tourism.
Yeah, I think we will see wherever like white people have allowed just absolute misery to occur, we will see this prostitution and the worst form involving children. We all are children under the system if you are non-white, but I'm talking about younger children. So yeah, 2 months ago, this is what white supremacists are allowing. This sort of things is happening in various places on planet Earth. So motivation to solve the problem. Hopefully spread the word. Hey, have you ordered your code book yet? Have you convinced a couple of people to order their code book? Your so-called friends, so-called family members, please beg them to get serious about solving the race problem. So continuing, I think this term is very short and constructive. 117, illegitimate. This is a code for Black children born to Black parents. The word has been used for many years to discredit Black families and classify them as dysfunctional. In the minds of a white supremacist, a non-white person is invalid and illegitimate. No Black individual can be a legitimate human as long as white supremacy exists. Correct. The code says that more precisely, the word guy says that, there's no such thing as a human. We're all are forced to exist as subhuman, below what a human is supposed to be. And the code also states that we are the illegitimate children of racist man and racist woman because they are the ones who take care of us. The money that our victim parents use to so-called raise us, it all comes from racist man and racist woman, unless they have devised a way to print their own money and give it value and they're able to use it. So just very accurate term, illegitimate, to describe what's happening. And it doesn't mean we shouldn't work to be a very constructive survival units. It's just a way of using this word to present truth, because if I ever found myself in front of a judge or something, I would say, you let me down, father. You let me down. You're my real dad. You're supposed to take care of me. So yeah. Anyone want to share notes? Their own notes? Something that they highlighted to read?
There's I think something to remember in the word guide, racial mathematics. And in racial mathematics, I think that teaches us how to accurately compensate for the lies that racist man and racist woman are constantly exuding. Thought, speech, or action. When there's an ideal you want to process about how they function, we have to remember that Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and others revealed that in their patterns of logic, they have a pattern of thought that they must continue to support and refine, from the youngest to the oldest of white supremacists. They are constantly on a vigil against any thought that would correctly identify them as the criminals they are at all times, in all places, when they interact with non-white people. So when we, like, I love the term also, I love the phrase that we are not men as long as we're dominated by racist man, racist woman, and racist child. One thing I constantly try to do is explain to Black people when they hear me say it, because it they get really upset. especially now since I've moved to the silent. When I say things like, well, I'm just a refined slave, or, white people are in power, so I'm just following after them. We should explain always that they are illegitimate men and women, illegitimate. So the only way to affirm that in living reality is how you attempt to counter them when you interact with them on every level, at a basic spiritual level. If you continue, we as individuals, continue to let them dominate us and abuse us in person or indirectly, we're forfeiting manhood over and over and over and over and over again. Or just in the attempts to counter them, we are affirming our will, our desire, and our design to be universal men and women. And we have to keep that as racism is not a thing, it is people behavior. So in countering it, even in processing the information about them, we have to keep in mind, we have to do something about these people when we encounter them. And their lies coming out of the mouths of other victims. We have to do something.
Okay.
Do something. Even if it's our pattern of logic, we have to do something at every encounter, or we're forfeiting an opportunity to be a man and a woman, in my opinion.
Excellently put, Evolutionist for Justice. Wow, refined slave. I think I maybe start using that word as well to refer to myself. I used to call myself a regular slave, but I'm attempting to no longer be a slave and no longer exist in a system where all non-white people are slaves. So yeah, it's very, very important to not just have to discuss these things when we're in these meetings, but when we're talking to an associate on the phone, or a so-called family member on the phone, FaceTime, whatever, to use counter-racist codified language, and if it causes confusion, help them with the confusion, but do not, shuck and jive for people by pretending we're not in a system of white supremacy. Very well said. So, I'm not gonna read that one. I had to highlight it, but I'm trying to wrap this up sooner. Yeah, I think so there's a ton of code words. I'm just gonna read some of them, and maybe it'll encourage folks to want to get the book more. Hackers, tax credit housing, low income people, area or community, loud music, the projects, the slums. Maybe some other hosts are gonna have plans of mentioning them, but I do not. And I'm just gonna that's my baby daddy. It's code phrase right here. And hearing this just makes me think of my utterly pitiful victim unit, and just, this is what we grew up on, baby daddies and baby mamas, and there's some truth in that, because this, that's all I have to say about that, because I really don't like thinking about my survival unit. It is super pitiful. So yeah, continue on 118, the ghetto. I'm just going to read this one really quickly. Ghetto was originally tagged to Jews living in segregated areas of cities in Europe. It is now applied to Black people in major cities. So I think it's just very telling of how us as a collective, we're just so not able to connect the dots. I think in the ISIS papers, there's that diagram of like many dots, and it all leads down to one thing. Just various dots. You follow the lines, it leads to the system of white supremacy. I think it's incredible that once upon a time, so-called Jews were placed in these ghettos and then killed by large numbers in various ways. Here in 2021, white people have placed us in ghettos. We're being killed in large numbers within these ghettos by white people who are pretending to be police officers, and by each other. So it's just like, why would they call where Black people live the ghetto? Why would they call it that if it's not a place similar to the concentration camps that the Jews were sent to inside those ghettos and around those ghettos? So it's just like I used to hear this word all the time and never tie it back to the Holocaust. But yeah, Black people are still in their own Holocaust, you know. I don't want to misquote, but I heard somewhere that, you know, if you want to, I'm not even going to get into numbers, but I suspect, you know, 500 million, if not more, Black people have been killed in this Holocaust that's been going on for probably 1,000 years or so. But we just got to pay attention to the words that we use. You know, if we're in the ghetto, we should be trying to get out of it. We should do what the Jews did, you know, create defamation league where no one is allowed to produce images of Black people being silly, stupid, or confused. You know, that's what they did. That's how the so-called Jews, which I suspect are just many white people, that's how they're able to minimize their mistreatment. They've been allowed to do something about it, and Black people, it's I think it's very important just to pay attention to the words and to try to get some sort of league like that in place where we do not support incorrect images of Black people. We do not support Black people shaking their ass or are driving around in a fancy car with an AK on our shoulder rapping about nonsense. We don't support that anymore. So I think we need to get onto that. Pausing to see if folks want to chime in, share some notes.
Yeah, when I think of the word ghetto, it's like well, when I was reading that description and it was talking about where Khari Enaharo mentions that the word was first associated with people who are called Jews today, white people who are called Jews today, it reminded me of what Dr. Welsing was saying on the cows years ago. One of the times that she was on the cows, and she was saying, obviously, the man that we're familiar with, the one that's called Hitler, and how he decided that those particular white people were not going to be classified as white. He decided that they weren't classified as white. Now, obviously, today, most Jewish people who classify themselves as white and are classified as white by many other white people who are not Jews. So proof again that white people are in control of racial classifications, right? So, and that put me in mind to where I've said before about one of the aspects of racism, white supremacy is measured by how badly Black people specifically are doing in the system of racism, white supremacy. That's just a theory of mine, but other people may disagree. But that's what I think racism, white supremacy is viewed by white people and other people who are not classified as Black. They measure how well the white supremacy system is doing by how specifically Black people, how badly specifically Black people are doing. And it just makes me think of other color groups on this planet. They understand the treatment that Black people are receiving at the hands of racist man and racist woman, and they continue to not join with Black people. And I think that's I think that's a problem, you know. So the sooner that Black people understand what that means in the totality of racism, white supremacy, you know, Jesus isn't coming to save us. Hispanic people aren't coming to save us. Chinese people aren't coming to save us. Indian people are not coming to save us. I mean, if that's not true, you know, if anyone wants to point me in the direction of other people who are trying to help Black people, I'll show you an empty space, because I haven't seen that. I mean, they could prove me wrong by tomorrow. One of these other color groups could stand up and say, look, we declare that, you know, we are going to stop at nothing until we put an end to this system of racism, white supremacy. We understand what's happening to Black people. We understand what's been happening to Black people for centuries at the hands of racist man and racist woman. But they've proven that they understand what's happening, but they're proving that they're not going to help us to stop that. And that's just my opinion. You know, the views expressed by Mr. Smoking Damages are not necessarily representative of the views and opinions of other people on the Countering Racism and White Supremacy book club. Anyway, yeah, that's all I've got to say about that.
Well said. And yeah, I don't see any other attempted counter racist groups or attempting to produce justice groups that involve people who are not Black. So yeah, I think everyone has got the message that, hey, you know, if you want some comfort, want some trinkets, you know, do not join that pitiful Black side. Do not try to help them. Come over here with us white supremacists, racist man, racist woman. We will take good care of you. We're still gonna mistreat you, but not as bad as we're gonna mistreat those Black people. Those people we classify as Black. We're gonna make sure they're in a living hell 24/7. But we'll let you learn a couple of instruments. We'll let you into our school. We'll build some libraries at our school to honor your exotic names and exotic accomplishments. But do not try to help those Black people. And I think the system has made many other racial classifications just very cowardly. I don't know if that's a correct word to use, but it's what I see. People cowering away from racist man, racist woman. People so afraid to even speak out against the problem or even describe it correctly, because people, you know, they want their comfort, they want their trinkets. But as Black people, we don't, many of us will never get that comfortability, those trinkets, besides the people white people put in front of us to lead us to believe that we could also acquire that. And that's not even a goal that we should have as people. We were not born to get a bunch of material garbage to show off or to feel good about it. We were born to solve this problem or be slaves forever. So I may have run a little tangent there. I may have rambled a bit. I don't know, but yeah. See if folks have.
Yeah, it's definitely not a tangent. It's definitely well said, and I think the sooner that Black people just understand that fundamental aspect as well of racism, white supremacy, and what it's done to other people on this planet as well, in their attitudes towards Black people, then we might get a little closer, just a little closer to solving this problem, or even just understanding a little bit more about what it is and how it works. Because, you know, this whole notion of a kind of, you know, when you hear this sort of thing about Black and Brown alliance and stuff, you know, I only hear Black people saying stuff like that about a Black and Brown alliance. I don't hear these groups saying Black and Brown alliance. They don't say that. And most of the time when I hear Black people saying that, what I think of in the back of my mind, that's fear speaking. It's fear in the minds of Black people that are saying it, because to admit that we don't have an alliance with other people who are not Black, it would then force us to understand that we're in this largely, we're in this fight alone. We're in this fight alone. And the quicker we understand that, then, you know, like I say, I think the quicker we'll understand it and get a little closer to understanding exactly what this system is and how it works.
Yep. And Blacks at the bottom, everyone else, you know, use those Black bodies to climb up to a comfortable position, you know.
We should remember that I've heard it said here, we were not born Black. What the racists have been doing lately is convincing Black people to try to beat them at this race ideal, to get this concept that we're bound by something other than the system of white supremacy. Somehow genetically, or we always want, well, they're trying to convince us to talk about trauma from slavery or oppression, but not about the traumatizers. We talk about it as if we can collectively somehow or individually heal whatever that is, and not address that this is a total system, a system structure of people that you can't heal from if they are actively, directly and indirectly, still oppressing you in every area of life. So the racists have this diagram they're drawing out through people. I don't want to say their names, but they've been given the right to make a bunch of movies lately. And they want to give us this concept that we are a race. And it has nothing to do with white people practicing terrorism and hostility based on color. So that's a key that we have to remember. And if you listen very carefully to Black people, some of them who talk about concepts that may be considered counter-racism, they're really trying to enact copycat behavior of the white supremacists. The white people who use that JEW name, they were given conditions of performance in order to qualify as white. And one of the conditions that they set upon the qualifiers is that you must safeguard verbally and so-called legally that we will no longer be returned to a non-white status. So they had to elevate them as something other, but crowned with white ultimately. And we have to remember that degrees of suffering and degrees of abuse, there's no such thing. Only in the mind of an ignorant slave would they try to compare degrees of abuse when you're just being abused. So a person who's lighter, but not a quote unquote a Black, you're a degree of Black. So you're just gonna be abused, period. If you wanna get in degrees, psychopaths are good at that. They talk about numbers and degrees of psychopathology. But we should always remember as victims, I'm not Black. Unfortunately, my classification based on color has duped everyone into believing that my treatment should be Black, even if they're Black. So we have to undo that in our own minds in order to recognize like the psychodynamics of fear in these other shades of Black. And that's a good thing that I think all victims of white supremacy, in my opinion, should study the psychodynamics of fear. So you learn to recognize it. It helps me not get as angry and be as impatient with other Black people, which I have an extreme problem with.
Yeah, I think that's it. Just huge evidence that something's up. You know, I've been making a greater effort to when I speak on these broadcasts to include the combination of words saying people classified as Black. You know, we have been classified. It's not something we signed up for.
Right.
Yeah, and all the other racial classifications, they have been also classified as, and it just happened so due to how the system works that people classified as Black are placed at the very bottom because the system of white supremacy thinks that we are the greatest threat to solving the problem, but I may be in error. So from 119,
yep, I agree.
Thank you. So we have more words I won't be covering, but they are excellent for us to pay attention to whenever we're watching news or whatever. Obesity, slow learners, lower classroom qualities / lower classroom standards. I am going to read classroom discipline really quickly and discuss my notes around it. Classroom discipline, this is a code term aimed at Black male students in the classroom. White females often fear large Black male children who are perceived as discipline problems. White teachers and some teachers ask for greater pay because they say it is hard to teach Black children with special emphasis on teaching Black males. I was doing an observational study for an assignment in so-called college, and I went to study with the old middle school I went to, and when I was observing this white art teacher who I could just see she was afraid of the Black students in there, and she said to me that they're terrorizing me. She literally said those words or something very similar, but she did use a terrorizing word, and in my head I was like, wow, this person is really, really racist. And I wrote about it, documented it. But yeah, it's incredible, and that's gonna tie into the next word I'm gonna read here. But before that,
before you say that, yeah, I was gonna ask people in the chat actually. Have you ever found that you learn in a more constructive way or in a better way or a faster way when you have a black teacher? Did you find that you learned better from black teachers at school or white teachers at school?
I'll go ahead and answer. I was just so niggerized in my K through 12 education that, you know, I didn't care if it was a black person or a white person. I really wasn't paying too much attention to what was being said. I did have black teachers who tried to so-called reach me and but none of them told me I was in a system of white supremacy. If they would have told me that and told me about the war taking place, then I would have I think I would have cared. But, you know, talking about being successful and all that stuff, you know, it wasn't, no. So I don't, to be super clear, I didn't start learning things of constructive value until I was in community college and learning like stuff on YouTube and learning stuff in so-called college. But my K through 12 education, I learned absolutely nothing. And I think, yeah.
To answer the question, I don't, if I understood it correctly, I don't believe I didn't really have a lot of black teachers. I did have black teachers when I lived in Ghana for 2 years. And I believe that was when I learned some of the most constructive things I ever learned. Felt like I was very far ahead of, I guess, my so-called peers. Other than that, I didn't really have a lot of black teachers. I don't think I had one throughout high school. Actually, I did. I had a history teacher who was very constructive. I felt the black teachers put in more effort than the white teachers more most of the time. And I wouldn't say I went to, actually, I'm not sure. I was gonna say, I don't know if I went to predominantly white school, but I mean, I definitely went to a school where there were not a lot of black people. So yeah, in high school.
No,
Anyone else? Did you
growing
turn?
up, I didn't have a lot of black teachers. Probably substitutes, but no, as I can remember, no black teachers. And then the most teachers that I didn't get along with or growing up or had an issue with, ironically, of course, they were white. So no, I didn't have black teachers.
I had a combination of both. First teacher, kindergarten, white. The rest were white, except maybe two math teachers. They were black males. I find, from my experience, the black dean, which was a male, and the two black math teachers, they were encouraging, but they didn't teach me about racism, white supremacy. The white teachers were indifferent.
Alrighty, I'm gonna, go ahead, Smoky Damages.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, I found I tended to, or the black teachers encouraged me to learn a bit more than the white teachers. And I mean, it's anything that I learned, whether I was at school, whether I was at college, whether even when I was doing my my bike technician training, there was some white people, white teachers that were so-called teaching, and they weren't really putting in that much of an effort. And I think that's just been my experience, that a lot of times white people do not want black people to learn any constructive information. And if they see that black people are not learning that well, they're not really that bothered in helping black people, black students. But I mean, that's just been my experience. Like I say, maybe other black people have had different experiences at the hands of black and white teachers.
Some really amazing things and interesting things are being said in the chat. I want to read from something from Rate This Record. I'm pretty sure we all can relate to this situation. They say, I think Rate This Record is a female. I think she says, I have a friend who has a high-ranking job with King County, Seattle. She literally refuses to read Neely Fuller because she doesn't want to know. She doesn't want to learn about white supremacy. She wants to stay confused, and sometimes I don't want to be friends with her because of her sellout mentality. And I'm gonna comment on that. When I started to learn about white supremacy, all of my so-called friends, I discovered they were not my friends. They were just fellow cowardly non-white people who are maybe white supremacists because some of them were so-called Hispanic, so-called Mexicans. And many of the Black people were not interested as well. That's when I realized, oh, I have no friends, because the code says that Black people are not allowed to have friends. And the few friends that I may have are people who have the same ends as me, which is solving the race problem. So yeah, I don't think Black people can have friends, and if they do have friends, they better have their own definition attached to whatever friend they're supposed to be. And I don't know if I would call it a sellout mentality. It's just her conditioning. It's just the victim mentality, because she's not selling anything. She is the product. She's a product slave. Yeah, she's buying into the system of white supremacy with her ignorance and her inability and her lack of a will to want to solve the problem. And I'm just gonna continue with the chat.
Exactly. We no such thing as sellouts, and these Black people, you talk about sellouts and coons, etc. We just have varying degrees of confusion. Varying degrees of confusion. I'm still confused. No name calling whatsoever. That's not going to help us. That's never going to help us to solve this system of racism. Why it's never worked. It doesn't work. Name calling up
And
Black
another
people.
thing, the whole friend situation. We don't have friends. We have associates.
Yep.
Correct.
Same.
We're not none of us are sellouts. We just have varying degrees of confusion. So there's a lot of daily on Instagram. I get some people in my inbox encouraging me to name call other Black people, like that's gonna solve the problem. We can't concentrate on ourselves talking about how confused and laughing at this other Black person, how confused that Black person is. We're all confused. If we weren't confused, we would have figured out by now how to not be victims of racist man and racist woman.
Exactly.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
I can say I appreciate y'all though. I appreciate being able to tell the truth and not be told I'm crazy. Because before I found groups like this, suicide was a constant thought every other minute. To be in a world where every Black person is telling you, no, you're the problem. There's no such thing as racism. That was devastating to me for 3 or 4 years, and I couldn't shake constant thoughts of wanting to kill myself or just end my existence. But then when I started hearing other Black people, I was like, oh man, I must not be. Oh, we crazy together. And that was a little comforting, still is. I'm cool with being crazy with everybody on this line.
Oh, all insane.
Insane and crazy, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Evolutions for Justice. I do. Yeah, I am a person who is often, I carry a lot of rage. Even before this war effort, CRWS, I carry a rage, anger at what I see every single day. Black people in utter misery, utter stupidity, and no one wanting to help us. So yeah, I think this is a very, I think many of other Black people worldwide need to develop something similar, start reading, learning together to counter the rage and the thoughts of suicide, often very common with me. It seems much easier to just eject, Mecca out of here than to try to solve the problem. But I don't want to fall into that line of thinking or that zeroism thinking. So
that's what they want. I think the most refined racists I've seen in their eyes, a bloodlust when they see us at our wits' end complaining about racism.
Yep.
And they'll tell you with a straight face, there's nothing you can do about it. Knowing that leaves you utterly hopeless. If the people you trust tell you there's nothing you can do about it, they're planning your suicide. They look forward to it. Or you would definitely demoralize yourself and be dead anyway, but a walking zombie.
Correct.
Yep, I completely agree. And with the suicide thoughts, etc., I had the same type of thoughts, and noteworthy as well. Usually, when, like I say, we have the varying degrees of confusion. You know, non-white people, if you're a little less confused than some other people, non-white people around you are more confused than you, just be thankful that you're less confused, a little bit less confused than they are. You know, and also, just pay attention to the people who are calling these other non-white people sellouts. You know, from my experience, usually there's a lot of heat for the sellouts, but those same people that have all that vitriol for other victims who are more confused than them, they don't have the same type of energy for racist man and racist woman. That's why I usually find all of a sudden, when it comes to attacking racist man and racist woman in the same way, all of a sudden the language gets real kind of, nice all of a sudden. they just want to take out their frustrations because they understand. Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah, of course. They understand. Yeah, they understand who their masters
I
are.
hate to say the brother's name, but them Hidden Colors films, I'd be
You
amazed
know?
at how quickly he dogs out black males and females. I mean, just stuff that I've said to him before in a personal chat. You wouldn't say that, man, in the same room with the man you talking about right now. And he just got mad and blocked him.
Exactly. You usually see this on a constant basis. They've got so much to say to other black people, other victims like themselves, on the slave ship like themselves. But to the master and mistress, nah. All of a sudden, you got to be on your P's and Q's and be real nice. You know, like that big, the muscly black guy that was that was going off at his girlfriend. She just like, hey, watch your mouth. Just watch your mouth. All of a sudden, them big muscles didn't help him. So we all know who our masters are.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue. Very excellent dialogue from the panel. I'm going to continue the dialogue from, and this is Drinkwater speaking. Drinkwater, can you tell me if you're a male or female? Because I need to know what you are. But before I get that information, I'm going to continue. Drinkwater says she is, and referring to and replying to Break This Record, she is comfortably numb, a happy slave, a well-fed chicken that doesn't know she is set up to be slaughtered, or like my parents, cannot address reality because it's too hard to combat. Seems sons, I think, supposed to be unsurmountable. So best to play along and avoid questioning authority. Yeah, and this is dynamic for many of us. My victim mother, she taught me how to read, the importance of reading, but she did not tell me the truth. And I know she knew more. She knew that we were in a system of white supremacy because she would tell me, if your grandfather knew you were with white women, he had something to say to you. And I wondered what she meant by that, but I never asked her. And my grandfather killed a white man for mistreating him, and that's why my victim unit had to flee from Louisiana to LA. So she has information about white people. She could have told me
history.
Yeah, she could. Yeah, family history. Yeah. She could have told me the truth about white people I was dealing with, but no, she did not tell me. I don't know if she thought it would protect me, but it made me much worse off because it's truth. They say it sounds cliche, but the truth shall set you free, and that's what every black person needs: the truth. I should not have been in bed with white people, but I didn't know it was a problem. I'm getting raped. I'm hanging out with this white suspected racist, and her dad saying nigger, and I'm laughing about it. So it's just a disgrace, totally disgrace. But yeah, we have victim parents being like, just cowards, unable to tell us the truth. Maybe I should stop using that word, but it's the best way I could describe someone afraid of telling the truth. It's just okay. Drink water is a he. All right. Thank you. So continuing, I just have two more code words to discuss. Very short. From 119, special needs population / children. This is a new term for Black people. It means that Blacks need great assistance and support to achieve anything significant and are ignorant and incompetent. Their lives are crime filled, and their children are discipline problems who need special attention. They created a whole curriculum called special education and packed Black children in there where they're just like babysat, not really taught anything. They just babysat until the government collects checks from them. The teacher collects checks from them, but they're not really given any sort of constructive attention or constructive help, which is the importance of having Black teachers who are on code, who can practice counter-racist code, who can just tell the truth to these students, because that is what that's what's needed. And I'm gonna pause there to see if there's any comments before I read the final code phrase for today.
Where it says that it means that Blacks need great assistance and support to achieve anything significant. That's true. Black people do need great assistance and support to achieve anything great. And yeah, that we should, and the greatest assistance that we could have is that if people who are classified as white would stop the practice of racism, white supremacy, that would assist us greatly. You just, stop practicing racism and leave us to our own devices. I'm sure that we'd achieve greatness, so-called greatness.
Yes, it would be an excellent opportunity to do so for sure. Drink Water says, VGQ, I think we were trained with that phrase, sticks and stones, words never hurt us, but I believe words are dangerous. It's how their whole system works on words. Words can change our entire psyche. Yeah, this is what, look at the screen. This is what this book is all about. Khari Enaharo mentions that sticks and stones may break your bone, but words may never hurt. He mentions that being a lie, and that words are very dangerous, very powerful, and that's how they keep us as silly slaves. We'll just use words we don't know what they mean, or we'll make up words and apply stupid meanings to them. Like swag, like cap. Cap means lying or pretending. Why not just say lying or pretending? But we got to say cap. You gotta. So it's just, just an example of how just silly we are becoming and being made every day with this super refined state of white supremacy. I
remember Neely Fuller Jr. talking about words will never hurt you. He says that. What about guilty? that will hurt us. 25 years, 50 years. If a judge says that to you, oh yeah, words can hurt you depending on who's using them and who has the power. If the person that has power over you is using those words, oh yeah, those words can hurt you a great deal.
Yeah. Ashley said, what are laws but combinations of words designed to control us? So this whole system is built on words, deceit, and
sagging pants laws. That can hurt us.
Stop and frisk. That was a combination of words that led to a lot of damage. So we got to understand that words are important. This is why I appreciate the code book, the word guide, and this book as well, because it's full of words that we are able to understand better. So the final code phrase I have here is teacher combat pay. All right, I'm gonna say that again because it has a lot of connotations. Teacher combat pay 119. This terrorist code for dealing with Black students in urban school districts. White teachers view this as a warlike situation. The language is not used in white school situations, nor is extra pay in white school district contracts. combat pay means white people want extra pay for taking physical or life-threatening risk for working with Black children. White supremacist teachers view Black students as little gremlins or little monsters. They believe that these children have limited intellectual abilities, and therefore their real mission is to civilize the little savages. Under this concept, any white teacher willing to sacrifice her or his life by going into the jungle should be amply rewarded. What do white people think and see when they see Black people? From what I'm learning, nothing pleasant, nothing constructive. So yeah, and this would explain why myself, Miss Carice Johnson, Mr. Sir, and probably others on the panel, but I know us three specifically were physically abused by a white teacher. I got tossed around. I got picked up, thrown across the classroom by a white teacher. I got chairs thrown at me by a white teacher. I made it, and Sir was drowned by a white teacher. So yeah, it just they see us as non-people creatures, you know, gremlins, savages, brutes, something that needs force, because they're not trying to teach us, they're not trying to help us, they're trying to control us or civilize us, whatever that means. So we are yeah.
If I could comment on that, me personally, I didn't have many issues with teachers in school, but while subbing as a teacher, it's hard for me to I blame racist men, racist women entirely for that tragic arrangement that goes on at schools. I think that the children are being heavily mistreated, and as well as a lot of those teachers in some cases, not the white ones, but all I have to say is I don't teacher combat pay. I wouldn't say that. I think that that they deserve to be paid a constructive amount for the constructive work that they do. And I suspect many of them are not being paid a constructive amount, whatever you want to call, whatever that means to you. For me, that means, you know, pay for the work that they do.
Call them teachers. How can we call them teachers when the so-called system of school by the white supremacists is to diseducate, lie to, and condition Black males and females to be perfectly subservient and docile? So how can we say there's anybody on the planet that is actually a teacher of something constructive? There's no evidence. Other than attempts at counter racism, I've never met a teacher, ever. Never. I've met liars. I've met people who omit and use deception, but I've never met a teacher who lie to this day. I had a white teacher who knew we suffered in the white school I went to tell me on a public forum there was no racism in Michigan.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's
I just, you know, in the system of racism, I agree. Yeah, they definitely, I guess I would agree teachers is not the correct term, especially under this system. Everybody is not receiving the constructive help or education that they deserve to be considered human beings, or to, you know, whatever people deserve, they're not receiving it. Whatever the constructive help people need, they're not receiving it. And I 120% blame racist man and racist woman for that.
Yep, all white people should be treated in exactly the same way as Black people are treated until the system of racism, white supremacy has ended. And if you create the monsters, these white so-called teachers, so-called educators, if they create the monsters, then they should have to deal with the monsters, right? If they turn us into monstrosities and monsters, and they're asking for pay, They ask exactly right. They're asking for extra pay to deal with to go into the lions den and teach the lions. No, you should go in there empty-handed, unarmed, right, and go talk to the monsters. And then on top of that, you're saying, oh no, there's no such thing as racism. You know, we're in a post-racial society. Get out of here. They all know. I mean, proof of that they know as well. Why would they be asking for the extra pay? I mean, why are the students acting in the way that they're acting? They don't want to answer that question, because if to answer that question, you're gonna have to ask, like, you know, what's gone into their minds from when they were born. What kind of system are we living under that turns us into these like monsters and monstrosities, etc. So yeah, completely agree. No such thing as teachers.
Oh man, like when you say that all white people should be treated like black people, I'm gonna, if given an opportunity, if a white person comes incorrectly to engage with me incorrectly, I'm gonna probably say something along the lines like, I can't help you, nigger, or shut up, nigger, and just walk away, just to see what the reaction will be. You know? Just to see what, I probably not codified, but it would be a nice experiment, you know.
Like, what's he gonna say to you? I'm not a nigger. He's gonna say, well, what's wrong with being a nigger then? Oh, so you know that there's a difference then, right? You know?
Yes, yeah, but treat white people like they treat black people, and also treat every white person as a suspected racist for sure, because that would have saved, I'm sure, all of us many time and energy and confusion if we had that from the jump, you know.
Man, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I had a similar thought that Mr. Drinkwater has said. He says, remember like the Matrix where Neo gets a download and he suddenly knows Kung Fu? I wish we could just preload Neely Fuller code book into every non-white person born from today. Yeah, that would be incredible. You know, this is why it's important.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. In order to compensate for not being able to do that, this is why we got to spread the code and just, you know, stop being focused on not wanting to be serious. You know, we got to spread that mentality, that serious mentality. Hey, you know, you want to associate with me, you got to be about solving a race problem, be of constructive value, or else I don't got time to hang out with you. I don't got time to watch a movie with you, come over and turn up. I've done enough of that, and it has not helped me to stop being a victim. If not, it made me think it was okay to be a victim, you know, thinking that me waving this bottle of Henny, jumping on tables, you know, fellow black people was constructive, but it wasn't. You know, being cool is not constructive. You know, being cool and hip is not our goal. It's to be serious soldiers wanting to win the war of white supremacy, which we're not. Far from it. Far from winning anything. Yeah.
If there are any white people classified as white who are listening to this broadcast, if they really want to help, first of all, obviously, get white people such as yourself to stop practicing racism and white supremacy. And also make Neely Fuller Jr.'s code book available to every single non-white person on the planet. That would go some way to alleviating some of the confusion that we have in this system.
And don't have no sex with nobody. Nobody. White people. Nobody. Not yourselves. Nobody.
All right, I think we could get into closing comments. Those comments could have been you guys' closing comments, but I'll give opportunity for folks to share their closing comments. Ms. Johnson, Mr. Kwaku.
Closing comments, constructive business meeting as usual. Replace racism, white supremacy with justice. Thank you. Looking forward to the next meeting.
All non-white people, go out and get, or whatever you do these days, order the book, get the book, purchase a copy of the book of Race Code War. Definitely purchase a copy of Neely Fuller Jr.'s Counter-Racist Code book, the word guide, on producejustice.com. and the word guide as well. Like I say, the word guide is essential as the code book for me. And definitely get Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's The ISIS Papers. If you get those 3 books as a start, if you're not used to reading, if you get those books, I'm sure that will alleviate a lot of the confusion that you feel in a system of racism, white supremacy. Yeah, I found this meeting quite constructive. I'm ready for the next one.
Remember that confusion is not knowing how to solve a problem, not knowing how to think correctly about a problem. So if anybody's on here and they're offended with or mystified by the word confusion, anything you still question is a hint that you are confused. Anything you look into, how could they, say Kyle Rittenhouse is not guilty? How could these judges, it's because you really don't understand how they do what they do. And it's important that you spend time alone contemplating. Reading is great. Thinking is better. Think about what you read. Look out in the world and see if it's true. Put your perspective on what you read and question, is this true?
Very well put, Mr. Evolutionist for Justice. Always a pleasure hearing from you, having you drop your wisdom in the chat. That goes for everyone in the panel, fellow hosts, Mr. Kwaku, Ms. Johnson, Mr. Smoking Damages. So yeah, thanks for being here, and I definitely appreciate the audience from the chat. Miss Rate This Record, Mr. Drinkwater. Appreciate the audience. Please, if you don't have the code book already, please order it. Please share it. Take pictures of it. Send pictures of it to your so-called friends, associates, family members, and yeah, we can solve this problem. And also, if you all want to participate in these meetings, this is an open air group. Everyone is welcome who wants to read the material and discuss the material. So you can email. This goes for everyone. Everyone that is classified as Black, everyone who is serious about solving a race problem who is not white, please email counteringrws@gmail.com, and you will get the links, access to our WhatsApp, where we share constructive information and chat a bit over there. So please, yeah, no great spectators. We all have to do our part to solve this problem. And yeah, thank you all. Thank the panelists, fellow hosts, and CRWS signing out.